Hi, welcome aboard the postgame show as I try to set things up on live radio. Here in the studio alongside Terry Ford.
What are you doing? What exactly are you doing?
Well, I had a computer issue here. And
you just blame Gunner?
No. I wanted to, but I didn't. But I know for certain that 3 times I typed in my correct password. I know I did because it's the same password I've had. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4. And I typed it in, and twice it said it was wrong. I'm like, no, it's not wrong.
So wait a minute. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 as your password?
Yeah, and I typed in
the things I'm going to do on that computer after you leave.
And anyway, I got it on the 3rd try, and I don't know what exactly was wrong. And it wasn't caps lock or anything like that. Anyway, welcome in. Lots to get to on today's program. I'm not going to tell y'all that I'm fired up today. Nothing has made me like angry today or agitated today in terms of some of the things that I want to talk about. But I did, and I tweeted this out. So today, Big 12 Media Days has begun over at the Star in Arlington, Frisco, wherever. I don't know officially which part of the Metroplex it's in the Dallas area, but the Star, where the Cowboys, the training facility. And Brett Yormark, very successful commissioner of the Big 12. I applaud the only moves the Big 12 has made of late that I think they regret or will end up regretting are the additions of Central Florida and Cincinnati. I think ultimately they're going to find that while those were moves made at the time out of necessity / desperation,
you had to make them to try to survive.
Now
big markets.
They don't. Yeah, but nobody cares. I mean, I know that sounds harsh.
You think nobody in Cincinnati cares about the University of Cincinnati?
I would say the Cincinnati Bearcats are at best like the 4th biggest sports entity in their own metro area. But anyway, Yormark
you think
today.
They're that high?
Well, I'm just trying to be nice. Yormark has. Quoting him, I'm going to double down on 5+11 when it comes to the new college football playoff format that will be instituted for 2026 and beyond. As a reminder, college football leadership has until December 1st of this year to notify Disney of the format they have chosen so that Disney and ESPN at that point can begin to incorporate all those things and make all the necessary arrangements. And then those same leaders will need to, secure, hotels and venues and all those kind of things moving forward for their different cities. Next week on Monday, we're going to hear Greg Sankey talk about the college football playoff. I don't know that Greg Sankey is going to give us his concrete thought on what he wants the college football playoff format to be. I will also tell you that in the last couple of days, and I guess this happened while I was on vacation last week, but I'm going to incorporate it into today's conversation. Tony Petitti, the commissioner of the Big Ten, has come out in strong public defense of the automatic qualifier system. Mm-hmm. 4 for his conference, 4 for the SEC, 2 each for the Big 12 and ACC. And then some at-larges. 1 for the group of 5 highest-ranked champion, whoever that may be, group of 6 now, I guess. And, a couple of at-large spots. And I just got to thinking, Terry, if I'm Brett Yormark, I get it. And he even admitted today in so many words, hey, me being a proponent of 5+11, where, again, the 5 highest-ranked conference champions get in, and then there's 11 at-larges. He said, this may not help us in the short term, but in the long term, we believe that it will because we'll get more teams in. Then he went on to stress, and I agree with him on this, and you'll see where I ultimately take this point. He went on to say, I think our conference is the deepest in college football. What he means is from our top to our bottom, there isn't a lot of separation. I don't disagree with him.
Well, last year is a great example.
But they only got 1 in last year.
Right.
And that's the rub for me. And I said this earlier on Twitter, and I'll say it again right now to all of you because this is where I kind of come in and get a little fired up. I find it somewhat ironic for now, all theoretical, if you will, that the Big 12 has its commissioner today saying, we want 5 plus 11. It may not help us. We're also the deepest. Okay, if you're the deepest, chances are very good that means you're going to cannibalize one another in some form or fashion, which,
Just like
again,
last year. Yep.
makes for really competitive football, and I like that part of it. But it also means that if they're going to use strength of schedule metrics and change some of these things, or if college football finds some kind of way to come up with something similar to a net ranking or the RPI, and I know it's harder. People tell me it's harder in football because it's such a small sample size of games, and I understand all those things. But regardless, for the sake of this discussion, you're probably only going to get one in most of the time because chances are good that the two teams you send to your championship game, if you just kind of look at it on the surface, will probably have a couple of losses going into that game. One of them comes out with a third, and your 3 loss teams are not going to be viewed with the same level of success as 3 loss teams from the SEC or Big Ten, at least based on early indicators. I would, at that point, say maybe we should embrace automatic qualification, and hey, we can roll the dice on being one of the teams that gets an at-large bid when all shakes out, or something to that effect. I'm starting to come around based on what I've read today, and I highly anticipate what Greg Sankey says on Monday, what Tony Petitti, we've already kind of heard him, but what he kind of reiterates. I'm starting to come around with the belief that the automatic qualifier is not the system is not a participation trophy, but kind of locks you in and gives you some guarantees that you don't otherwise have. And if I'm one of the smaller conferences, I might want some guarantees.
Okay, here's my thing with your Mark, because I was thinking about this when I read it today. I'm like, Brett, you're right. You have a really deep conference, and you're just going to beat the hell out of each other. So why wouldn't you want 2 automatics so you know you're going to get 2 in the dance and you're going to get that money and all that other stuff? So I'm trying to beat through my head why your Mark would want 5-11. And because, again, look, the world can change, dude. We don't know. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But right now, tell me the programs in the Big 12 you think in a few years are going to be top 15 programs that you feel good about.
Like consistent?
Yeah, consistent top 15.
Terry, I don't think there is one.
That's my point.
Yeah.
My point is
maybe Texas Tech because of the amount of money they're spending, but if ultimately they spend that money, you know what? Texas will just go, all right, the linebacker at Texas Tech last year that made $2 million, let's pay him $3 million.
Right. You guys are cute. Yeah. Now we're going to put you back at the kids' table.
A&M will say, hey, the receiver that made $2.5 at up there in Lubbock, let's pay him $3.25.
I mean, I just, like, if you would have asked me going into last year, I'd have said, you know what, I'm confident in Utah because I just think, I think our boy Whittingham's such a good coach, but eventually he's going to leave and the coach in waiting, who knows, things of that nature. Because I just think he's so good. But remember, last year didn't have a quarterback. What happened? Disaster. They haven't had a quarterback for 2 years. So I'm looking through that conference going, okay.
Their quarterback is like 38 years old.
Didn't he have every body part replaced at the end of last year? Cam Rising, God love him. He like the Bionic. Remember the Bionic Man?
Yeah.
That's what he was like. We can rebuild him.
Is it true, by the way, this sounds mean, is it true that Cam Rising still hasn't gotten his college degree after 7 years of college?
I think he still has eligibility.
Okay.
He just gave up. He could have got more because he was hurt again.
Oh, eligibility is one thing.
He has got his degree.
I don't know
now.
if he has his. Is that true? I don't know. I don't know. I saw that going by on Twitter that he doesn't have a degree. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Man.
He's like Van Wilder.
7
Remember the movie
years.
Van Wilder? Yeah,
and he's been
Van
going
Wilder.
for free.
Yeah, I mean, he's like Cardell Jones. I major in football.
Yeah,
I don't
guess
major
so.
in
And that's not a joke. I shouldn't judge. I'm just saying.
But anyway, I don't see anybody in that conference or any bodies that are going to that I'm confident in. They're going to be perennial top 15 programs where they're always going to be in the mix for the college football playoff. So, and I haven't got the answer to this question yet, Jay. Why would you want 5-11 if your conference just beats up on each other? And look, man, you got to be honest with yourself. You got to look at that conference with the door shut, right? And just like your like entourage together, and be realistic about your conference. You don't have any big heavyweights. You don't have any big market teams with a lot of money. You don't have any of that stuff in the Big 12 right now. You lost your two big dogs.
Right.
They went to the SEC.
Right.
And so I'm just sitting around going, what is it that Petitti is seeing, or what is the angle that he's going for? Because on the surface, you're right. It doesn't make sense in theory, but why does he want to go that way? There's got to be something financially, Jay Phillips, and I can't think of it yet.
I don't know what that is either. And again, at this point in time, if I knew I was guaranteed 2 until 2031 with the opportunity to a few times roll some pretty good dice, if you will, and try to grab one of those 3 at-larges every year, because again, the format would allow for 3 at-larges in a 16 school playoff. I'm here for that if I'm them. And another thing, and I don't want to go too far in the weeds with this today, because I can't get into, and I listen, the math hurts my head. But one of the things I've thought about is that maybe college football could get together, and this may be longer term, Terry, and come up with a system that is a lot like what happens with the Champions League in Europe, where there's basically a coefficient. In other words, how well. Let's pretend that countries in Europe are conferences in America.
Okay.
Like right now, England and Italy and Spain and Germany, they get 4 teams that get to go automatically to the Champions League. And like Portugal gets 2 and Holland gets 2. All right, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, let's just say that suddenly, Spain just started to suck at soccer. And for 5 years, like only Madrid was any good. Well, then Spain would get 3, but there's still the same amount of teams. Maybe France gets another one. Maybe England gets another.
Changing it up and set up a 5-year window where you're looked at on a certain grading scale.
That's what they do with European soccer. There's a coefficient, and the amount of teams you get into the Champions League automatically is based on how well the teams you've already had in it are doing over the course of a certain amount of time. So it could be, to your Mark's point, that we could get to a place where maybe the Big 12 is more successful, and maybe they get a third team, and you drop a team from the Big 10 or the SEC. I don't know. And again, that's an easy thing for me to say right now in a hypothetical sense, but there are systems in place in sports on earth where that works very well.
Okay, I'm gonna be Greg Sankey. Throw that one at me real quick.
Yeah, Greg, what do you think about the UEFA model for the college football?
Oh, you mean I could lose one of my automatic qualifiers if my league isn't as good as usually is?
Yes.
Hey. My eyeball itches.
Yeah,
you see that where my eyeball's itching? I have to scratch my eyeball with that finger.
And I don't know if they would go for it or not, but you could at least battle for that. But I don't think the 5-11 helps the Big 12. I think your Mark today, in my personal opinion, and this is why maybe I said I was a little fired up. I'm like, bro, I don't know if you're approaching this from the proper angle.
Can I throw another
for
one at
your
you?
schools right now?
I just thought this top of my head. The only thing I can think of right now, he wants to hitch his wagon with the SEC and the Big 10 in case they break off. That maybe he can go along for the ride if he's being boys with them.
Maybe.
Because I'm trying
but
to think.
The Big 10 doesn't want this. I'm telling y'all right now, the Big 10 wants 4 plus 4 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1 plus 3.
I know they do.
That's what the Big 10 wants, and they have doubled down on that.
Which is interesting that Petitti is so now militant vocally and publicly about this thing, where he was kind of hiding out for a bit, and when the SEC took the stage.
So that's happening today. We'll get into some of that for you. Speaking of media days and things like that, we'll come back on the other side. The Gamecocks participants have been announced. We will tell you the 3 players that will be accompanying Coach Beamer to Atlanta next Monday, and we have today's start bench drop. It includes some very successful former Gamecocks, including a couple of first-round picks, and we will give you those choices when the post-game show returns. Love telling you about Integrated Media, not only the best in home theater across the Midlands and beyond, but the best in home technology. Yes, you know what home theater is all about. Amazing televisions, fantastic sound with Dolby Atmos quality throughout the house, whether it's in-ceiling or in-wall speakers that are permanent, or the ability to move the sound around with Sonos wireless speakers. I've got a little bit of both at my house. All of it sounds absolutely fantastic. But they can also put your thermostat, your lights, your security system, and so much more onto the Control4 app, and you've got control of all of that from anywhere that has an internet connection. The other day, we were coming home from the beach. We had the thermostat turned down, up, because we're not home, right? Save energy. Got about 20 miles outside of Columbia. Click, click, click. Got into the house. Nice and cool. All right. Get ahead of the football rush for home theater and so much more with home technology. 803-948-8327. The best is Integrated Media.
On 2nd and 12, Newton fires over the middle, wide open for a touchdown. Jared Cook, the tight end.
Chris Fowler on the call from back in the day with a Savell to Jared touchdown. Welcome back into the postgame show. It's Jared Cook Should give you a hint where we are. Welcome back. Jay and Terry with you. Today's start, bench, drop, these Gamecock tight end greats. Alphabetical order. Jared Cook, Hayden Hurst, and Willie Scott. Hayden and Willie were first-round picks.
Mm-hmm.
And Jared was a third-round pick, but I thought so, and I confirmed it this morning. I remember when Tennessee picked him, they traded the following season's second-round pick to move up to get him where he was in the third round. They were convinced he was going to be the next guy, and they wanted him, so they made a deal to move up a little bit and get Jared Cook, who ended up playing for, almost 15 years?
Sure, I played almost, felt like 20 years, played with like 4 or 5 different
exactly.
teams.
Yeah, but I mean,
A very nice career.
Yeah.
I think he had over like 500 career catches or something like that when I was looking it up today.
Well, he made a lot of money.
Nice career, man. Yes, he ain't broke.
He made a lot of money.
Put it that way.
But
did all right.
so that's your start bench drop today. And if you want to look at him Willie played in the NFL for 8 years. Hayden had a good run there for a bit. So all these guys, you can look at them as Gamecocks. And I know, listen, I understand that Willie, R.I.P., Willie played a long time ago. But
different era.
Yeah, but that was a draft where Carolina had George Rogers go number 1 overall, and Willie was a top 15 draft pick.
Yeah.
But he was I guess overshadowed by a Heisman winner.
Yeah, some guy named Rogers.
But George, George will tell you how great Willie was. Back then a real early dual purpose tight end. I mean, yes, he helped block for the guy that won the Heisman. He and Ben Cornett were tremendous at doing that as tight ends. And man, Ben, I knew a little bit too. Ben's kind of like Rod Trafford. He had the one. I mean, Ben had more catches, I guess, but Ben had those of you who are old enough remember Ben was the guy in the corner of the end zone. I guess that's the north end zone, on his knees catching that ball in '79 against Clemson to win the game. But it's okay. You weren't down if you caught the ball in the end zone.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
That's right. But he was. I can tell you exactly where I was sitting in the stadium that day, man. And I was like, I was 9 years old, Terry, and I was like, that was awesome. Is he not down? That's okay. That's good. All right. There you go. But Willie, man, Willie was just a tremendous. Again, like I hate to use the term dual threat for a tight end, but because Carolina. You might not be surprised to learn Carolina didn't throw the ball that much.
Remember when you had George Rogers?
In the years that George Rogers was here.
I find that stunning. Yeah, Willie Scott had like 28 and 29 catches his last couple years or something.
But that's, for a tight end.
In that day?
In that day
in the
and
early
age.
80s, yeah.
And especially when you were sometimes splitting time. But Willie was really good at it, man. And again, R.I.P. Willie. We lost Willie a couple of years ago. So Jared Cook, Hayden Hurst, Willie Scott. Those are today's start, bench, drop choices. As Gamecock tight end greats. Speaking of Gamecocks, maybe some of these guys one day will be a part of a start bench drop. But heck, we're not going to start bench drop these guys today. But today, all of the SEC schools announced who they will be bringing to Atlanta. And for South Carolina, no surprise with Lenoris Sellers, but maybe some are surprised. Nick Barrett is going to be going to Atlanta on the D-line. And DQ Smith. I think a lot of people thought Jalen Kilgore was a bona fide.
But think about it, though, the way Shane does this. First of all, Nick Barrett's getting the thank you for staying all these years.
Right.
And thank you for redshirting last year so we could play you this year. And then, again, DQ's been around a year longer than Jalen Kilgore.
Yeah,
Shane likes to take the upperclassmen.
Take the veterans. I don't mind that.
I don't either.
And I think you gotta take Lenoris. If you have a Heisman candidate, a legitimate one, you've got to take that person.
Yes.
And we've talked about this a bunch of late. This is going to be a tremendous year for quarterbacks in the SEC, or at least on paper, it projects to be that. We'll find out how these guys do, but I think you've got. Certainly in Nussmeier and Sellers, you've got two legit ones. Arch Manning is getting a lot of bookmaking love when it comes to Heisman opportunity. And again, I certainly understand why. Let's see what happens with him. And again, I think a lot of people are saying, well, some are like, oh, he's going to be awesome. I don't disagree. I think he can be, but we just haven't seen it yet. I'm not questioning it. There's every reason to believe that he's going to be good.
You think about it, too.
But he hasn't done it yet.
it's so top heavy in the SEC for quarterbacks because you only have 5 coming back.
Yeah.
But of the 5, 2 can be in the Heisman conversation. Maybe 3, if the one everybody thinks is going to be good, can step up and be good in Arch Manning.
Right.
But you also have,
I like Lagway. I like Green.
Lagway.
I think they can be good, man.
And also, let's see, with the 5 that are coming back at Arkansas, our boy at Arkansas, you just brought up.
Green.
You have Lagway, you have Reed from A&M, who took over the starting gig, and you have Lenoris and you have Nussmeier.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But
I like
they're top heavy because a lot of people like those 5 guys.
Yeah, and in terms of Heisman, it's a little different line, but I think Stockton's going to be fine in Athens. I like Diego Pavia. Calzada, we'll see what he can do. Missouri gets the backup from Penn State. Name just left my head.
Prabula or something like that?
Prabula. Bo Prabula.
Something like Prabula, I think it is, yeah. We'll see.
Ole Miss, they're breaking in a new one, but you're working with Lane. I like that.
A lot of people love the physical ability
at Oklahoma
of Simmons.
is going to be good coming from Washington State.
I will say this. That guy is the wild card in all this.
I think so.
The way he played last year, a lot of people compare him to Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Run around, make plays, do stuff. Mateer ran it really well and threw it really well at Washington State last year. And they brought his offensive coordinator, Arbuckle, came along. Mm-hmm. What if he got some NIL money?
Both of them did.
Exactly.
Yeah, both of them did.
Well, it's like what our boy Charlie Lee did last year at Vandy. I'm going to bring Pavia. I'm going to bring Jerry Kill as his head coach. I'm bringing the offensive coordinator. I'm bringing the cook and the chef and everybody from New Mexico.
May as well. It worked.
It did work.
It helped.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. I'm here for that kind of thing. But anyway, there you go. So Lenora Sellers, DQ Smith, Nick Barrett will be representing Carolina next Monday. So again, we'll be over there all day long for you, all week long too.
Mm-hmm.
Not just all day long, but all week long.
6A to 6P, Monday through Thursday.
Yeah, looking forward to doing all that, and we'll grab a lot of guests throughout the week as we always do. But Monday, and again, you're invited to go. Now you can't do a lot, but if you want to go as a fan. There are opportunities to get into the College Football Hall of Fame. That's where a lot of this will be, and they'll, it's you can come on the bottom level and wait. They kind of frown on autographs, but I think a few people get autographs and stuff, and you can hear what's going on. They'll have some screens and stuff like that. You can't tour the entire Hall of Fame museum while you're there, because that's where Radio Row is and all that kind of stuff. But I'll wave at you.
There we go. Well, a lot of people will want your autograph.
That's a thing. Oh, I don't know. I don't do
that rush when you. It remind me of seeing those old movies of the Beatles when we were.
Yeah. No, I don't do.
The way they were chasing you around.
What I do is, like how they have the security rope, where the fans can stand on one side of the rope, and then the talent stands on the other side. But if you take the picture at the right angle, it looks like you're standing right next to them. That's what I do.
That's what you do?
Yeah.
We ought to get a cardboard cutout and everybody can walk up and get a picture of it with you standing there, the cardboard cutout. That'd be fun.
I'll be happy to do whatever people would like to. But anyway, you can come over. If you're wondering, can I? Yep. Yes, you can. Again, it's limited opportunity, accessibility.
Yeah.
But come say hey.
Yeah, you can say hi.
Yeah, come say hey. And do some stuff. Go ride the Ferris wheel across the street.
There's Ferris wheel across the street?
Even in 90-something degree weather.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
No, they keep that thing all the time there over there. That's fun. All right, we'll come back on the other side. Speaking of media days and more with the Gamecocks, our buddy Mike Yuba, Gamecock Central, will join us. And we'll probably ask Mike about something that he was doing today at his other gig. Because that was kind of cool. We'll explain and talk more about the Gamecocks with Mike Yuba right after this.
On 2nd and 8. Fakes inside. Play action. Wants to go down the middle of the field. Got Hurst. Wide open at the 30. Running away at the 20. The big man's going to go into the end zone. Touchdown, Carolina. Touchdown. 2 yards out. His second of the year through the air. Boom.
Todd Ellis on the call with a Hayden Hurst touchdown. Hayden, part of today's start bench drop. These Gamecock tight end greats, Jared Cook, Hayden, and Willie Scott are your three choices. Two of those first-round picks, and Hayden and Willie. Jared went in the third round and ended up having a brilliant NFL career. We'll get more of that from you throughout the afternoon. Hit us on Twitter or on the Firehouse Subs text line, 803-404-6100. Always a pleasure to talk to our good friend Mike Uva of Gamecock Central, also covering the Patriots and other Boston sports up in the New England area these days. And you got to see Brad Stevens today. Does he do what Rick Pitino used to do and say like Larry Bird and walking through that door?
He didn't, but I'll say this. He was probably as honest as anyone I've ever been in front of, college or pro, when answering questions today about the future of a team. And it was actually very refreshing to hear for a change.
Well, he's not the coach anymore, so he has to be more honest, right?
Oh, yeah, those front office guys never lie, right, Mike?
Well, I'm sure there were some lies mixed in there, but for any basketball fan, thank you. As I'm getting my Dunkin' Donuts doing the most Massachusetts.
Oh, my God.
What a sweetheart. What a sweetheart. Give me my iced coffee. But no, I mean, if for any NBA fan, they understand the popsicle headache that is with all these aprons. It's not just the cap space anymore. It's the first apron. It's the second apron. And, you know, Brad was explaining why they made a lot of these decisions. And then he also threw some stuff in there that I don't think some of us were expecting. Like, oh, yeah, I don't expect him to be back next year. So just different things like that.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. Let's jump into the Gamecocks here. Media Days participants were announced. You had a little piece about who you thought might go. I did one of those yesterday as well. We all got Lenoris. You mentioned that DQ might be one. He was there, but it's Nick Barrett instead of Jalen Kilgore, which might be the curveball. We certainly understand what Shane does with this, but this is as much about rewarding some of these guys with opportunities as it is anything they've done on the field. But when it comes to Lenoris, you know, Mike, you've covered Media Days many times. I know I have. I am expecting this young man to maybe be the most covered Gamecock at Media Days since I'm not even sure who. I'm going to have to go back in my memory banks, but he is going to have throngs following him around on Monday.
I've only been covering SEC Media Days since 2015, and this will be just the third one in that span that I won't be in attendance for. So certainly bummed out about that, but having said that, from at least the ones that I've seen and going back to think about the ones that I wasn't there, I'd probably say Marcus. But obviously I wasn't there for that, and as we know, Hoover, Alabama, compared to Atlanta, a little bit more cramped, a little bit more intimate, we'll put it. So a little bit different, but yeah, no question about it. Lenoris will certainly be the one that everyone talks about the most. And I'll say this. I know that people see him in front of the camera, what he's been doing in terms of media availabilities during the spring and maybe some pop-up appearances through NIL. I've had a chance to be around him away from the facility, up in New York a little bit as well when he had an NIL event. This guy just gets it. I mean, I know the story that came out recently with his father talking about turning down $8 million from an NIL contract to go to another school. I get all that. This guy is as locked in as you could be. It's not any front. For example, here's a great example. He's been taking a lot of his teammates out to halls.
Right.
Like he looks out after his teammates. Like he does stuff like that. I've shared this personal story. He saw me out. He came over, said hello, and he congratulated my fiance on the engagement because it happened a couple days after that. And I bring that up as a personal story. I can only imagine how many other people could share stories like that. He's just a tremendous individual.
Halls? He's taking his teammates to Halls, not Taco Bell.
College sports have changed, huh? It's not like, hey, do you want to just go to Cookout or go to Waffle House? We're going to go to Halls tonight.
Right. Hey, Mike, you put a little post on Gamecock Central yesterday about who you thought could end up at SEC Media Days with Lenoris Sellers. Nick Barrett and DQ Smith. You put DQ down, but you didn't put Nick Barrett. Your thoughts on the other two that'll be heading off with Lenoris?
Yeah, I was a little surprised with Nick. But at the same time, too, going back to what Jay just mentioned, we shouldn't be surprised, right? Based on what Shane has done over the last couple of years, where he rewards guys. Maybe it's that curveball, if you will. Now, last year, if you want to say curveball, but then you look at it, it's just like, all right, that shouldn't surprise anyone. Luke Doty. So it's not always going to be based on production. It's not always going to be based on, if a guy's going to necessarily start that upcoming season. And I think that just goes to show the rest of the team that when you have a guy like Nick Barrett, who certainly will be in the mix to try to be competing. I mean, there's no question about it. When you're replacing 4+ guys in that defensive tackle room, he's going to have his opportunities in there. But I think more than anything, it goes to show, hey, if you do things the right way, we're going to reward you. And another person, certainly, I feel like who flies under the radar just because he's so quiet, is DQ Smith. I mean, here's a guy that has been starting the last 3 years, for crying out loud. And he's going to be a tremendous representation there. Obviously, a local kid that played at Spring Valley, a former walk-on, just a phenomenal story there. So, yeah, maybe from a national standpoint, maybe some of these national reporters, they won't know as much about some of these players outside of Lenoris. But Gamecock fans certainly, I'm sure, appreciate not just what DQ Smith has done for the last couple seasons, but Nick Barrett as well.
I want to ask you one of the things that I ask a lot of folks this time of year, ask it of John Whittle yesterday, Mike, as you follow this program. What's your biggest unanswered question right now and or your biggest concern that you're looking at? What's that number one thing that pops to you these days?
Oh, I just think trying to build depth on the defensive side of the ball as a whole. I could look at a couple positions, right? I could say defensive tackle. I could say linebacker. I could say safety. I think from a cornerback standpoint, depending on how things play out and as far as where they put Cisse, I mean, I feel like he'll be a corner that they'll use probably similar to what we saw Cam Smith do a couple seasons ago and play that outside role, but then also come inside the nickel if Jalen Kilgore needs a breather. But I think depth just defensively, because of not just the number of people they lost last year, but the number of just production that they lost last season. I think that is hands down the biggest question mark with this team.
All right, so without saying Lenoris, what's the biggest strength on this team going into the season?
Well, I'm going to say, and there's going to be people that are listening to this, and they're going to roll their eyes, and they'll say, I'll believe it when I see it. And I'm right there with you. But yet, maybe this Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee is giving me a little a bump to make me believe. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm drinking the iced coffee.
What's the difference up there?
I think there's a lot of depth with the offensive line. Yeah. And certainly what it comes down to is being able to find the 5 guys that can play alongside each other. Yeah. It's difficult because they have to replace 3 interior offensive linemen. Well, you bring in a guy like Boaz Stanley that's come in, and guess what he's done? He's made waves to a point where Shane Beamer said something in the spring that he typically doesn't do. Basically, and I'm paraphrasing that guy's probably going to be our starting center. Mm-hmm. So you're able to identify a position like that should make you feel a little bit better. You have some very young and talented offensive linemen who have been eager to get out there the last couple of years. I mean, you look at what happened with Trevon Baugh and Big Tree, and these were 2 guys that, okay, they played a lot of games their freshman year. Well, they handled their things like pros last year, and because of that, they have an opportunity to compete for starting spots again this year. And for a guy like Tree, he's getting bumped in to play to be the starting guard potentially. What does that say? That goes to show you how hungry these guys are as well. So I get it, Gamecock fans. Every year, it's around the same time we talk about it. Well, we have to wait and see what happens with the O-line. We have to wait and see. But just think about this. Over the last couple of years, the job that they have done from a recruiting standpoint, at some point, things have to turn around. And I'm not saying it was awful last year. I'm not saying it was bad. But in terms of just being more consistent, and I think that's the biggest thing that Gamecock fans want to see. And I thought the O-line did some good things last year, but certainly you have to replace a lot of that from last season.
You do, but I think you make a great point, man. And I think with Trevon, with Tree, Case, and Henry started every game last season. Josiah Thompson obviously speaks for himself, but you look at some guys that have had some moments. Marquis Anderson has had to battle injury, but he's been very good. You mentioned Stanley. I'm with you. I think there is a lot more quality depth up front on offense. Listen, it's college football. You got to replace them.
Well, guys, you got a bunch of 4-stars here. It's time for somebody to start stepping up, right?
And I think they will. And they've had their moments. So I would agree with you there. Good stuff as always. Go enjoy your iced coffee before. Listen, if you were down here, the ice would have already
You
melted.
think it's just iced coffee?
Well, you might have gotten some
No,
munchkins.
it's 90. It's 90 degrees up here today. I feel like I'm back in South Carolina.
Yeah, well, don't worry. It's 97.
Yeah,
here.
we wish it was 90 here,
geez.
bud.
Yeah, it's 97,
Yeah.
and it's like a
Yeah,
sponge
look at
out
my winter
there.
coat out up here then.
We'll holler at you real soon, man. Always appreciate it. Be
See you,
good.
bud.
Take care, guys.
That's our good friend Mike Uva, Mike_Uva, to follow along on Twitter and catch what he's doing with the Gamecocks, of course, at GamecockCentral.com. Terry will open the vault when the postgame show returns. Welcome back in. Post-game show rolls on a Tuesday. Coming up in just a bit, we'll have more of our previews of SEC Media Days. Again, all of the school's participants announced today. We'll give you that as part of the drive around the SEC. Paul Feinbaum has weighed in on what he thinks the biggest storyline is. I don't even know this one yet. Terry has a soundbite. I was like, you know what? Hold it. So coming up next hour, we'll see what Paul has to say about SEC Media Days. I'll tell you what mine is, at least my biggest hope for next week. I got two, and they're equal. They're not even 1A, 1B. They're both 1A, 1A. Can I do that?
Sure.
I just did.
Yeah, sure.
I want to know about, I want to know about the football format, the schedule format for the conference.
Yep.
And I want to know about the CFP format.
Sure. I mean, I think that's the
and I know they
big
go.
stories.
I know they go hand in hand, or so we are told.
Yeah.
But I'm firmly on record as wanting 9 conference games. Hell, give me 10. I don't care.
I think you got to bump to 9. You just do.
I mean,
you have to go to 9.
I mean, people are like, stop saying you want more conference games. Well, I'm not gonna. I love SEC football.
I think everybody in the Power 4 should play 9 conference games.
And I sure as hell don't want to see anybody play, Cupcake U anymore. And I don't care. And y'all can send me as many. Again, to the guy who sends me, every time I say that, who sends me the YouTube highlights of the Citadel win in 2015. Bro, congrats.
Can I be honest with you? That is funny.
Congrats.
Every time you say it, every time. When you and I did the halftime show for those 2 years, every time you said it, that dude would
He did it when
up.
I was doing, listen, the first time it was the same guy, too, because I remember his Twitter avatar. First time he did it, Terry, is when I was broadcasting from home during COVID. I'm like, dude, I get it. You won. Yay. Like, that's cool. It is. It really genuinely is. It's cool. But you still don't need to be on the schedule anymore. And nobody wants you to be on the schedule anymore. Spring game. But I'm not going down that road right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll get into some more Media Days stuff in a bit. And an interesting fact, well, maybe not fact, but an interesting thing that Tony Petitti said in further defense of his position of automatic qualifiers that has made me come around. I get it. We can agree to disagree, but I think I've been swayed, and it's the reason. It might not be the reason that you think.
Okay.
All right. In the meantime, we need a sound bite for this.
The vault. This happened on this day.
We need like a sound bite, though, like the sound of remember
like
when
a door opening, a big vault.
was there a sound like remember when Geraldo opened Al Capone's vault?
Didn't Geraldo have a sound?
Was there like?
Yeah. I'm gonna look it up. Why don't you just make that noise every day? Do it again.
No, I can't do it again.
All right.
Spontaneity is my thing.
All right. Here is what happened on this day, 15 years ago, sponsored by Purple Wave Auction.
The answer to the question everybody wants to know. LeBron, what's your decision?
In this fall, man, this is very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
Miami Heat. That was the conclusion you woke up with this morning.
That was the conclusion I woke up with this morning.
There you go, man.
Well, remember that was in Akron, right? Like the crowd was like, there was like 2 people that were like, wait, what?
And remember they did the Boys and Girls Club or whatever it was?
Yeah.
And
There was like 30 minutes or 45.
Yeah.
That was, that's one of those things. That's why I don't watch that kind of stuff anymore.
Hour of my life I can't get back.
Yeah.
Never forget it, man.
Now, I'm glad they went on and won some titles down there.
Yeah, went to the finals 4 times. It worked.
It did. I don't have any problem with it. LeBron, that's going to be the thing about LeBron's legacy relative to some other NBA greats is that he won titles with 3 teams. And that's not a judgment. Good for him. I just stringing that out the way they did, and I think deflating that room and that part of Northeast Ohio the way that did. But I don't know that he ever had a lot of respect for the Cavs owner.
No.
And it was hard, and there was an admittance that it was hard to attract free agents.
Yeah.
To come play with LeBron.
Exactly, because nobody wanted to play in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Yes, they didn't.
And that's just an unfortunate reality that they dealt with. Now, ultimately, when he went back, Well, I guess you had what, Kevin Love and Kyrie. And,
Yeah, Kyrie was drafted number 1
Yeah.
by the Cavs,
Yeah.
and they dragged Kevin Love from Minnesota, and they kind of put something together, and they won.
and they did.
They won championship.
And that's where, again, to me, the defining LeBron moment, happened in Cleveland with the.
Sure.
I guess it was technically in Oakland, right? With the
block. Yeah, on Andre Iguodala. Yeah.
Like that. That to me was that's LeBron's defining play.
What I will never forget, though, about that whole decision thing is when Dan Gilbert, the owner of the Cavs, put that big letter in the Cleveland Plain Dealer, the newspaper, saying, "We'll win a title before LeBron."
Yeah. Well, you got to say something.
Yeah. Oops. That was an oops.
But yeah, I think a lot of lessons about a lot of things were learned after that broadcast,
Yeah, but I'll say this.
and not just about broadcasting.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But LeBron opened the door for all the super teams and all these guys leveraging all the money they made. And
It
that's kinda
also
started
gave us.
all, man.
It also gave us sort of a catchphrase for a while. I'm taking my talents to blank.
Exactly. Or 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
10. Yep. There's
Hour
your vault.
number 2 is coming up. 4 o'clock on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back into the post-game show along with Terry Ford. I'm Jay Phillips. We're broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia, wherever you are. Thank you for choosing to be with us. Lots to get to. I got a little, I'm not going to call it breaking news, but I'm calling it developing commentary from Big 12 Media Days. And I'm going to get to that in just a second because I need time to not laugh out loud. LOL.
Really?
Yeah. So if I say some other things real quick here, it'll diffuse things. My brain will reset a little bit, and then when I read this, I won't laugh too much. But
No.
I'll be reading this momentarily.
Will I laugh out loud?
Yes. You'll at least laugh. Today's start bench drop, which is not what I'm laughing about. Today's start bench drop is Gamecock tight end greats Jared Cook, Hayden Hurst, Willie Scott, a third-round pick, and 2 first-round picks in order there. Who you got? Hit us up on Twitter or on the text line, 803-404-6100. The Firehouse Subs text line is ready to take your start bench drop today on those Gamecock tight end greats. We'll have some SEC Media Days thoughts in a bit. And, again, conference commissioners in the last few days. One today, Brett Yormark of the Big 12. One a couple of days ago, Tony Petitti, defending their stances on their preferred format for the college football playoff in the future. Obviously not this coming season. Although, heck, we don't even really, I guess we pretty much know what this year's looks like. But beyond that, not so much. All right, here's the developing commentary rather than breaking news. Today in Dallas, at least at the Star, I think officially in Frisco, Texas, is what I'm told. Is that right?
Yeah.
But in the Metroplex, Big 12 Media Days, Scott Frost is back in the Big 12, Terry, as the head coach again, as Forrest Gump would say, of Central Florida. On the big podium, quote, I said I wouldn't leave UCF unless it was someplace you could win a national championship. I got tugged in a direction to try to help my alma mater and didn't really want to do it. It wasn't a good move. I'm lucky to get back to a place where I was a lot happier.
I didn't want to go. They made me do it.
I mean,
They pulled me back in, just like Al Pacino.
that's why I'm not, I'm trying not to laugh. I thought this was look, from the start, everybody said, oh, well, Scott Frost. Listen, I don't, whatever people think of Nebraska football is fine in their own mind. Nebraska football that of yesteryear is done. It ain't happening.
Not in the way it was. That. If you look at Nebraska's 50-year run or whatever with Devaney and Osborne and Solich, that's up there with the Ohio State run, the Oklahoma run. It's phenomenal.
You won 10 games a year. I mean, you certainly won 9.
Yeah.
And you were supposed to win 10. And basically, the Nebraska-Oklahoma game decided who went to the Orange Bowl back in the old days. And then Osborne found a way, honestly, to ramp things up even further in the mid-'90s. But that's not happening anymore. You know, I mean, I think the guy's name was Scott Peterson, was the AD, and he hired Bill Callahan.
Yeah, remember they go throw the ball.
Yeah.
The forward pass.
You know, we're going to take 50 years of tradition and a system that is proven to work, and we're going to blow it up. And both those dudes were done in like 3 years. Pelini tried to get it back, and many of you have heard me talk about this. You know, I say I was in the room after Carolina beat Nebraska in the Citrus Bowl after the 2011 season. 11 season. You know, and Bo Pelini say, well, you know, the best team didn't win today. It's like, bro, I think they did. You know, I mean, Nebraska didn't score in the last 50 minutes of that game.
You know what's interesting about that with Pelini? We forget so Pelini won 9 and 10 games every year at Nebraska.
Yeah,
but ready? Gator Bowl, Holiday Bowl, Capital One Bowl, Gator Bowl, Holiday Bowl. That's not what they wanted at Nebraska at that time, so they punted old Bo. Here's the funniest part. They didn't like those bowl games, or the Foster Farms Bowl, or the Music City Bowl. From 2017 until last year, guess which bowl game they went to?
They didn't.
It's called the Nun Bowl.
Yeah, they didn't. It's done. It's just done. Now, can they be good every once in a while? Sure. And could they do something that's more than what Indiana did last year? Maybe. But you're not getting the kids to go up there from Texas, Florida, California, a couple maybe from Atlanta or Phoenix or places like that. They're just not going. It's just not happening.
Can I give you a stat? From 1962 to 2001, Nebraska won at least 9 games except for 2 seasons.
Right.
I mean, what they did is vile when it comes to success and national championships and competing for titles.
Well, and the 2 they didn't. What, they went like 8?
6, I think it was. Let me double check here really quick.
8,
yeah,
7.
ready. 1967 and 68, they only went 6 and 4.
Okay.
And then they bounced back up and started winning a bunch of games again. And look, Matt Rule's a good college football coach. We saw him do crazy things at Temple and at Baylor. Nebraska's got a lot of money in collective. They got a lot of dough. Could they occasionally pop up and have a big season? In this world, sure. Are they ever going to be anything close to what they were back in the day? That's a no. It's a different world, Jay. Kids don't want to go freeze their butt off in Lincoln, Nebraska and play college football if you're in Florida or if you're in California.
Well, there's so many opportunities,
Right.
and they'll never have it. And listen, again, the old system of, son, you're going to come on again, especially those big boys up front on both lines, right? You're going to redshirt year 1. Year 2, you're not going to play unless you're just special. And if you do, it's probably in a game that we're supposed, back in this, I know for some of you might be like, wait, really? But, in yesteryear, again, I'll use that term, Iowa State and Kansas were dreadful.
Oh, terrible.
And so you might get to play in the fourth quarter if you were like a redshirt freshman against those teams.
Yep.
But against Oklahoma State, you wouldn't play. Missouri, you wouldn't play. Then by your sophomore year, if you were really good, redshirt sophomore I'm talking about line play, depending on how good you were. But certainly by the time you were a redshirt junior and a redshirt senior, you knew what you were supposed to do. They'd go get a couple of skill guys from here or there. Again, they'd go recruit Texas for those kids.
Yep. Texas and Florida and California.
Florida, yeah, and that's what you did. And a lot of people do that.
Yep.
And it worked brilliantly, but you kept everybody on campus the whole time. And they were well taken care of. Nobody's naive.
Oh, sure.
But today, nobody's going to sit for 3 years at Nebraska and hope to play.
Nope.
Not even for a flashy Matt Rule offense. It's just so. I come back around to the Scott Frost thing. I didn't really want to do it. Come on,
Stop.
don't do that. Don't do that, because now here's what you're doing. You're burning a bridge with those people. You don't need to do that. If you just want to say it didn't work, but to say I didn't want to go,
right?
I think is disingenuous. If you didn't want to go, why'd you go? You can't go out of some perception of guilt. I mean, like, what are we, what are we talking about here? I just don't think that's the right thing to go out and dare I say admit.
Yeah.
Now look, here's the thing. I believe you. Right? Like, I can believe this, but it doesn't mean you need to tell the truth.
Okay, here's the thing. All right, first of all, went back to his alma mater.
Yeah.
Number 2, got paid more dough.
Like twice as much.
Right. So stop it. Just stop yourself and quit with this whole, I didn't want to go. They made me.
Yeah.
Tom Osborne came to my house and threatened my family, held me at gunpoint. Stop it. That's
what it sounds like.
Right. I mean, look, I get you're trying to kiss the backside of the folks at Central Florida. I get you. I understand what you're trying to do. But all you got to say is, man, it's great to be back. I really loved it when I was here. It's not that tough. It's not that tough, Jay. It's not that tough, man. You don't have to go that route, because you're right. That route, you blew up a bridge. You basically, slap the people that were your home, right? So to speak.
Right.
Just to make the people you're working with now love you again. It's just dumb.
I would not have admitted this in the way that he did. But to say, and look, the thing is he trying to still compliment Nebraska with what he says? Like, in other words, I wouldn't have left unless it was a place like he's saying they can do good things. I love you, Nebraska. I just didn't want to be your guy. And look, if you tell me in today's world, can I go? Like I went undefeated, and I did it in Orlando, Florida, literally in the middle of one of the 3 most talent-rich states in America. I can draw from anywhere. I got kids. I mean, there's great football in Orlando. I can go over to Tampa. I can go up to Jacksonville, down to Miami, down to Fort Myers. Football. I mean, Pensacola. You got football all over Florida. So, yeah, you're going to be better off there. And the thing is, Terry, you don't have to at UCF. You don't have to directly compete with UF and FSU and Miami. You don't have to directly come down. For a couple of kids, you will, sure. But you can take that 1B level of talent that the state of Florida offers, and you can win games.
Oh, yeah,
They did.
absolutely.
They did.
Florida, I mean, how many teams go and poach Florida for 3 stars who would be 4 stars in a lot of other places?
Everybody. And there's so many of them. So I don't understand. I go, look, sometimes brutal honesty is great, but sometimes your honesty can go too far.
See, you're being a lot kinder than I am. I'm thinking he's just full of fertilizer to suck up to the UCF
Maybe
people.
so, man. And trying to suck up to both. Because, again, I only would have left. And I just wanted to help my alma mater. Well,
When you say, though, I made a mistake and I didn't want to go, that doesn't make the Nebraska people love you. When you said, I didn't want to go.
Here's what you do. If you want to help, and I'm serious about this, and I know he'd never do this, and you certainly couldn't do it publicly. But if you really want to help, you privately sit the right people down up there in Lincoln and go, y'all, seriously? That whole winning 10 games every year thing, that ain't happening anymore here.
Okay, can I throw another angle
So y'all
at you?
need to go lower the expectation level, and in a way, and I know this would make them just want to pass out, Terry, but in a way, y'all might need to follow the Iowa model, where you need to be prepared to have a 5 or 6 win season in a 5-year period, a couple of 8s, and then when you hit that 10, the opportunity, take every chance you got. That's probably what Nebraska needs to do these days.
Here's another angle. Let me throw it at you. How about hell hath no fury like an alum scorned? I mean, do you think Frost? Because remember their record in close games was awful. Remember that?
Yes.
He's lost every close game pretty much they played.
So as Matt Rule.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you think? Because again, it's personal when it's like your hometown or your alma mater or whatever. Do you think in some ways he's got a little sense of the red eye, so to speak, over getting fired from there, thinking that maybe he deserved more time? I'm just throwing something out.
I don't. Here's the thing.
I would have fired
I think he got up there and realized what I'm saying, and I'm not alone.
Oh, no.
I think he was like, oh, bleep.
Don't you think most people outside of the state of Nebraska see what Nebraska is now, but they just don't? Because for 30-some years, they were one of the greatest programs in the country.
It's not a complete listen, they should go to bowl games a little more often.
You think?
Yeah, bowl games. But to have missed them, but again, you mentioned Pelini. I think Pelini, when you blew it up, and I'm not saying that if you don't blow it up 20 whatever years ago, that you're still winning 10 games a year at Nebraska. Because I think the world has changed enough to where you're just not getting the kids from warm weather states to go there. And it's not the same as recruiting them, as you and I mentioned yesterday. Lincoln, Nebraska, and Norman, Oklahoma are 2 very different places, despite being not that far apart. I guess Kansas is in between them, but you see the point I'm making. It's very different. It's very different.
Yeah, world's different, man.
We'll come back on the other side. SEC Media Days storylines. We know who's going now. What does one big broadcaster believe is the biggest storyline that we look for next week? We'll hear it all when we come back.
I got something for you. Jay Phillips, post-game show. Terry Ford, Jay Phillips. Coming, little Paul Feinbaum. First, though, name this person, Jay Phillips.
It's an honor for me to be here. I can't tell you how special this is for a kid that grew up in Nebraska, basically grew up on this campus when Mom was a track and field coach here, and I was running around getting in trouble and getting run over on the Devaney Center track. From there to playing here to being other places coaching for as long as I have, to get an opportunity to come back here is special to me.
Well, it sounds like a guy that's there against his will, doesn't it?
I guess that's Scott Frost. For just 1 second, I honestly thought that was, I was like, that Chipper Jones? I was like, oh, wait a minute. That's not Chipper Jones. Yeah,
That's our boy, Scott
that's what I'm
Frost.
saying. If y'all just tuned in, Scott Frost today at the podium at Big 12 Media Days, in so many words, basically said, yeah, I didn't want to go to Nebraska. I didn't want to leave Central Florida the first time after the undefeated season. I thought I had to, but I never wanted to, and it wasn't a good move. I'll give you that it wasn't a good move.
No,
part.
absolutely, I agree 100%.
But they doubled your pay, and it is your alma mater. You know, there's always that lure of the alma mater, and for a lot of guys it works well. For a lot of guys it doesn't. You know, you look at Steve Spurrier, it worked beautifully. You look at Kirby, it's working beautifully. Phil Fulmer won a national championship. There are certainly times when it does. You know, you want it to every time. You know, when George Felton was here, you wanted Bobby Crimmins to come back in basketball. You know, for Coach Felton, it hit a little high. They went to a tournament. You know, had some good players. That Columbia-based team was fun to watch for a couple of years, Terry. But then it kind of ran its course, and George had some issues to go deal with. And you know, and that's just a couple of examples. Like there are times when it works.
Yeah, Patrick Ewing, how'd that work at Georgetown?
Yeah, you know,
it was a tough go. Right.
Yeah, but like what? Gary Williams went to Maryland, right?
Gary won a national championship.
And he was doing, the thing is, he was doing big things at Ohio State. It wasn't like he was at some job.
No, he had built Ohio State up there. They went to the Elite Eight under Randy Archer after Gary left.
You know, Gary was, you know, but in this case, again, I think what Scott Frost understood was we can't get the kids. We're not getting the kids. And you made a point that I don't disagree with. They got money. Mm-hmm. It's the only game in town, quite literally, in the state. Right. And look, it's not a populous state. You've got to go elsewhere to get your kids. I mean, you'll get a few kids from Omaha. Lincoln, listen, man, Lincoln's probably smaller than, like, Augusta.
Yeah, Lincoln's not a big town, man.
Omaha, listen, Omaha is pretty much like here, y'all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I've been. It to me, Omaha's a lot like Columbia.
It's about the same size.
I will say this.
Close to it.
Omaha has a lot more money in it than Columbia does, because Omaha is a thriving business town with railroads and Warren Buffett and ConAgra Foods.
Omaha Steaks, baby.
Omaha Steaks.
And Kansas City's right up down the road.
Kansas City's only about 2 hours away. You know, it's on the river. I mean, the old river trade banks. I mean, anyway, they got money. You know, they got money, but they don't have people.
The third biggest city in the state is Nebraska football games.
Yeah,
the stadium is the third biggest city in the state when it's full.
So it's just, I think he got up there and again went, oh, bleep, we don't have the talent to win these football games. And now we're in this we're in the Big Ten, and I can't compete with Ohio State and Michigan State and Wisconsin, and really even Iowa. I mean, listen, you can say a lot of things about what Kirk Ferentz has done of late with a moribund offense, but Iowa football, again, they've got a formula. And they stick to it, and they like I told you, in any 4 or 5 year in a 5-year cycle, I think Iowa folks just know one of the years is going to be a down year. And one of the years is probably going to be a 10-win season. And then it's the other 3 that you're not sure of. You know, and Nebraska may have to adopt that kind of formula, Terry. I just think that's what they're going to – we'll see if Matt Rule turns it around, but I don't know.
Look, Nebraska under Hayden Fry and Kurt Ferentz have only had a few losing seasons since, the late 80s. They have winning records to go to bowl games. Like you said, every now and then it's going to be a 5 or 4 win stinker. But within 2 or 3 years, they'll have a 10 or 11 win year and they're competing big time. It's who they are. And look, it's tough to tell people it can't be what it used to be, though. Let's just be fair for a second. Then
nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to.
Sometimes you don't want to hear like the truth. Like when they sat me down and said my hair won't grow back. You don't want to hear the truth sometimes. But the folks in Nebraska think if they get the right coach, they can get back to being what they were under Tom Osborne and Bob Devaney. And it's not going to happen.
No, listen. Back then, there were 2 good teams in the Big 8, you and Oklahoma.
That was it, man.
The winner of that game, like I said, the winner of that game, and if you're old enough to remember when the Big 8 winner went to the Orange Bowl, that was it. It was either Oklahoma or Nebraska.
Remember, it was the Big 2 and the Little 6 they called it a lot because they were so bad.
And Missouri was maybe the 3rd best team sometimes. I remember when Kansas State came here in the 84 season as Carolina's homecoming opponent. Okay, you can think about Kansas State these days that wins 8, 9 games on a regular basis. Not then.
Nope. Not at all.
Not then, man.
Nope.
So, it's just things are different. But again, I'm glad for a second I was like, is this like a Chipper Jones Hall of Fame speech?
What are you doing to me, Ford?
So, I'll tell you what. Let's play this and
come back and talk about it.
Yeah, everybody can kind of let's see if everybody agrees. So here's Paul Feinbaum on our sister station Jocks FM in Birmingham on what he believes are the big storylines next week at Media Days in Atlanta.
Well, I think Brian Kelly is going to certainly be center stage. He's certainly one of the best-known SEC coaches. He may be the best known in many ways. And what he does, other than Kirby Smart, how he handles the podium next week, I think he'll handle it very well because he's a smart coach. But the questions are going to be once you get over there, is it CFP or bust? The same questions you hear on the ESPN shows about DeBoer. I think Brent Venables needs a good week because he is definitely in harm's way. I think there's just a lot of the predictable stories, but I think those are 3 that will be mentioned early. And by the way, I think Hugh Freeze would have been a secondary story until all this. Now I think he's a primary story.
So there you go. Paul just wants to talk about football.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, he doesn't care about the schedule format.
Nope.
Doesn't care about the college football playoff format.
He cares about coaches on the hot seat. Baby.
Yeah,
that's what Paul's about.
Well, and on that note, I'm kind of with him on what Venables has to do. But Venables doesn't need to have a good week.
No, I would say forget the week.
Yeah,
he's got to go have a good season.
He needs to have a good fall.
Right.
We'll get into that and more on the other side. You're listening to the Tuesday postgame show.
Now, let's check out what's happening on the roads this afternoon. In Columbia, got an accident reported Fish Hatchery Road at Church Street. Also in Columbia, long-term construction, obviously, malfunction junction. So once again, be prepared for a little bit of sitting. Also, I-26 Bush River Road, they're doing that long-term construction there as well. And in Ridgeway, a bridge blocked, bridge work over Thorntree Creek. Blink Bonnie Road between Belfield Road and Ridgetop. Let's check on your traffic here on the postgame show.
.433 here on a Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay and Terry with you. Coming up in a little bit to top of the 5 headlines. Get back into our start bench drop in just a second. And we just heard Paul Feinbaum on our sister station, Jocks FM in Birmingham, on what he thinks the big storylines are. Hugh Freeze, he says, becoming a bigger story. Listen, Auburn has to get back. Speaking of, places where you're supposed to do more, not to compare Auburn and Nebraska directly. Auburn has done a lot more in recent years than Nebraska has, but they've fallen on hard times. And again, when Auburn only measures themselves against 2 schools, it makes it real difficult to climb out of the hole,
And what are those 2 schools, Jay?
Alabama and Georgia.
Who's been winning national titles the last decade?
Alabama and Georgia. So it's tough, but Venables does become, I think, Oklahoma. Here's the thing, and I know some of you may be saying to yourselves when you hear me say the Oklahoma situation of today and the Nebraska situation that's been happening for the last decade are more intertwined than it may appear. I get it, because you got to go win football games. I'm just of a belief, and that's all this is, that ultimately Oklahoma will have, I'm going to use the word easier, but that's a relative term. Oklahoma's going to have an easier time of fixing its problems than Nebraska has had for a couple of reasons. Number one, Oklahoma's now in the Southeastern Conference, and they recruit well in Texas. Nebraska's in the Big Ten, and they don't.
Right. I mean, to me, that's the number one deal.
Oklahoma has players. Oklahoma has resources. I think Oklahoma's going to be fine. Now, fine could be relative, and will Oklahoma get back to the Oklahoma of even Bob Stoops, where he won every other Big 12? Yeah, Lincoln Riley had big years. Probably not, because this conference is a lot more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, the Big 12 is easier to dominate. Do I think Oklahoma's going to be a good program? Yes. I think they'll get – look, Venables has got 1 year.
I agree.
And you said this yesterday, and I'm with you 150%. He's got to win 9 games.
I think it's got to be 9.
If he doesn't,
I think he's got to be on the cusp, if not in, but on the cusp of the playoff, where Carolina and Bama and Ole Miss were last year, where Miami was last year. Oklahoma needs to be there.
Absolutely. And if they're not.
And that may mean, Carolina fans, that may mean needing to come to Columbia, South Carolina and winning, because don't anybody around here take it the wrong way, because y'all know where I'm from and where I went. But Oklahoma's not supposed to lose to South Carolina. And not only that, but Oklahoma's not supposed to get their butt kicked by South Carolina.
That thing was over in the first 2 series of the game.
And while they came back to beat Alabama, and that was a big deal for them, because they probably weren't supposed to beat Alabama.
Shouldn't have beat Alabama.
So maybe that's a wash. But Brent Venables, with his history at Clemson, has a better understanding of what it might take to come to Columbia and win. And they will be better this season than they were last season, especially on offense.
Well, they threw a lot of dough at it, and they brought in Mateer, who was a high-level quarterback at Washington State. They brought his OC Arbuckle along with him. They added offensive talent. They put it this way, they made it rain.
Yeah.
to bring in players.
And to clarify, so anybody knows what I'm talking about here, not that I need to defend myself, but I'll clarify. When I say Oklahoma's not supposed to lose to South Carolina, that's a fan base talking, and the fan base that helps pay the bills talking to their head coach and the administration.
Oh, yes. I know where you were going, saying they called in Brent Venables and said, boy, come here for a minute.
Like, dude, no.
You understand something?
We don't. This is
we don't lose that game
because they're supposed to win 10 games minimum.
Right. All
and
the
now,
time.
Again, that may not be happening anymore. And look, I can flip that script if we want to talk about the Gamecocks and say, listen, if the Gamecocks are going to climb the ladder, you got to go win those games.
Mm-hmm.
And South Carolina needs to win the Oklahoma game here this year because you got road games in Baton Rouge and Oxford that are going to be real tough to go in. You got to go back to Missouri this year. You got to go to A&M this year. So you're going to need to hold serve at Williams-Brice. And South Carolina can. South Carolina didn't win that game last year, because it was a fluke.
There was no fluke to that.
South Carolina was the better football team. Were they that much better in Norman that day? Yeah, if you do that 10 times, do you do that? And you don't win that way 10 times.
I'll tell you, but if they play 10 times, I think South Carolina beats them 7.
I would say that sounds about right.
I just think South Carolina was clearly the better team last year.
Yeah, I agree. South Carolina should have won that game because Oklahoma wasn't very good last year, but that's not what Oklahoma's in it for. Oklahoma's going to look at South Carolina or Missouri or Arkansas, hell, even Auburn, Kentucky, whomever, and be like, Kansas State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Baylor, Texas Tech, TCU. We win those games. Sure, sometimes every once in a while we get upset. But they don't come to our house and whoop our backside.
And they got tore apart. You want to talk about going to the woodshed? That was the old go outside and break me off a switch so I can beat you with it kind of a whooping.
Yeah. So anyway, to come back around to the point that we talked about with what Feinbaum said, Brent Venables and Oklahoma, I think, become one of the central storylines of the upcoming season, if only because if it doesn't get turned around to a necessary and relative point, then Oklahoma is going to be on a search. And if y'all didn't hear yesterday, Joe Castiglione, who's been the AD at Oklahoma for 20-some years and
almost
has been
30,
one of the best AD, I say always like 28 years, is retiring. And he has told, about a month ago, I guess, he told the administration. And so they've kept it quiet for about a month. They went public with it yesterday, and the search is on. And as soon as they find the new AD, he becomes, AD emeritus, and he's going to help them fundraise because he's really good at that. But they'll have a new AD at Oklahoma before the season. Kid, this isn't going to be some long, we'll take our time and let you know around Thanksgiving. That you did this the second week of July so that by the football season, you've got your new AD in play. It will not take Oklahoma a month to find an athletics director. I imagine that if it finally became public and known yesterday, Terry, that they had to install new phone lines.
You think?
Or new email servers. I mean, they everybody that's a good AD and has a good agent.
That's a great job, man. I mean, it's just I saw a little on 3 had a post about the whole situation with the Oklahoma AD. Let me get to you real quick. Two names to keep in your head here real fast. Let me see. I got to find it. Whenever you want to find these things, they're never here.
Kirby Hocutt's one we were talking about yesterday.
Yeah,
was there somebody else?
No. The candidates we brought up yesterday were the candidates.
Right.
Who's the guy that's the new GM? He was with the Senior Bowl or wherever he was at, or whoever he was. Jim something. Help me, I'm losing off the top of my head.
I am too. And I'll think of it. But yes, they're going to elevate him. You think?
No, that guy's got power now. These GMs. I read a real deep dive in the Athletic about these GMs, and there's some of these guys, and this is one of them. He's going to have a little bit of a juice.
It's Jim Nagy.
That's right, Jim Nagy. He's got a little juice.
Looking it up to make sure I'm right about that.
So I'm not saying he's going to be the AD, but he's going to have some say in the new power structure, I think, at Oklahoma. I think it's Jim Nagy. I think you're correct.
Yeah, that's right.
Sir.
Jim Nagy. There you go. I got it. Jim Nagy. Yeah.
So just be ready for that to come around the pike, too.
Now, but yeah, he'll have some say, but he's not going to be elevated up.
No. I think this is something else that's going to be interesting in our world moving forward. And it's going to be fluid for every school. But this GM job, in some places, it's going to be a thing where the AD is not just going to walk around and say and make all the decisions independent anymore. These GMs, depending on how the job is set up, can have some serious power at these universities.
They'll have, yeah. I agree. I won't disagree with you in the use of the word power. I would say they're depending on who you are, you'll be given a certain level of autonomy.
I think I look at it this way, like, for an example, these GMs over the revenue-generating sports, where they're really hired for the revenue-generating sports, they'll be in the room, let's put it that way, when decisions are being made. They'll be in the room.
Certainly.
And when's the capologist show up in college sports?
Soon, man. Soon, at some point here. But no, I agree with you. And I suppose in some way, if you look at it, like let's take an NFL team with a college football program. The owner is the school's president. The athletics director is, say the team president. And I know I'm not trying to be confusing there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the general manager is the general manager.
Right.
And certain general managers, I mean, you're from Baltimore. Ozzie Newsome is one of the greatest general managers in the history of the sport. They didn't mess with Ozzie too much.
Oh, no. Ozzie had autonomy to do what Ozzie wanted.
And then there was somebody, I'm sure, for the last however many years, like, in New England, who had a business card that said general manager. And that dude was getting Belichick's coffee.
It's scary to say. Belichick was like, look, can you take these suits to the dry cleaner and go get me some Dunkin' Donuts.
I don't even know if they actually had one, to be honest with you. But and I know he brought his guy Lombardi with him to be that in Chapel Hill now. So you're going to see more of that. But I think you have to give those men and women, depending on what sport and what school, you have to give them a certain level of autonomy. And look, I think good athletic directors are already doing that. You don't want to. If you micromanage, that's not going to help you.
Can you anymore? I mean, you look how big all this is now with everything that's happening.
These are 200 million plus operations.
I mean, it's craziness. If you're an AD, you almost want to hug the GM every day, right? I mean, you're like, thank God.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. Yeah.
Thank you for being here because my head's going to explode.
Well, Oklahoma's going to get a big time one. And when you said Kirby Hocutt yesterday at Texas Tech, I was like,
I feel like that's the guy.
That's the guy.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, brother.
I would look there.
Oh, we got some Jay or Nay coming up, man.
I always love it. Let's do it next. Welcome back in. Post-game show rolling on here on a Tuesday. Jay and Terry with you. Coming up top of the hour, the headlines of the day. We'll let you know again who Shane Beamer is taking with him to Atlanta as the Gamecocks are on day one of the Media Days rotation, along with fellow schedule mates, LSU, Mississippi, and Vanderbilt.
How about that?
Yeah. So Brian Kelly, Paul Feinbaum says, one of the bigger storylines.
I don't know what his fascination is with Kelly this year.
Well, I think they're supposed to.
They got to go to the college football playoff.
Yeah, I think a lot of us thought last year. Look, 2 years ago, dare I say, you failed because you had an electrifying offense.
And your
you had a
defense was
Heisman
awful.
Trophy winner, and you couldn't tackle anybody.
Yeah. And last year, your defense was just bad, but not awful.
It wasn't.
Still wasn't.
It was
that great.
better, but your offense was worse. But they still won 8 games last year.
9. They won 9.
Yeah, won 9. Yeah,
And that's. I mean, that's the thing. Look, I know that it's like, okay, Brian, time to get to the college football playoff. But look, if LSU, let's say LSU pulls a South Carolina or an Ole Miss or an Alabama from last year, and they go 9-3 and just miss the playoff, is Brian Kelly getting let go? No, not in my opinion. I don't think so. No, I think a 7. I think if they trade her, I don't think he gets let go if they just miss the playoff.
I doubt he gets let go, if only because I imagine the buyout is still
That's what I was
big.
getting ready to say.
But you've known me now for a while, and one of the things I say is, "Tell me how you lost."
Yeah. Now, okay, let's say you do it like Alabama did last year, and you lose an unacceptable game like the Oklahoma game, and that knocks you out of the playoffs.
And number 1 in the country, and you go to Vanderbilt and lose. Like what I said about Oklahoma fans saying, "Hey, we're not supposed to lose to South Carolina."
No, LSU. would
Alabama
not.
fans say, "We're not supposed to lose to Vanderbilt."
And neither would LSU fans. To your point.
So
You ready for a little J or Nay, Bob?
let's do it.
All right, man.
This is really all this is about. Is
I know.
music.
Absolutely. I'm with you 100%.
Whatever I say has no merit.
I'm not paying attention to anything you say.
Of course,
from this
most of what
point
I
on.
say anyway has no merit. That's fine.
All right, Atlanta Falcon quarterback Kirk Cousins says he was misled about the Falcons drafting a quarterback, Michael Penix, that high in the NFL draft. Jay or nay, was Kirk Cousins misled? Jay Phillips.
Nay. I mean, look, dude, this is a business, and if your team's brass starts to look around and say, you know what, this is the guy for the future, why do you get mad about the now? You're the now, and you know how old you are. You also know how much money you are getting paid, brother.
$100 million guaranteed.
Don't sweat it. Don't sweat it. No, they didn't. Yeah, hey, we might draft somebody, but it'll be no. They saw something in Penix that said we need to get this kid. No, you're not. I mean, if you think you got misled, I can't change your mind.
All right, Jay or nay, Mike Brown, the new coach of the Lakers, brings championship pedigree.
Hey, this is even worse than I thought the Knicks could do. For real, you're gonna listen to Mike Brown more than Thibodeau? So Mike Brown's gonna loosen the reins? That's gonna work well.
It's not an upgrade.
No. This
I'm
is
with
not.
you.
This is a bad. No, this is a bad. It's incredibly on brand for the New York Knickerbockers.
It has the smell.
Way to go, Rockin'
Doesn't it have the smell of Dolan all over
Rockin'
it?
Jimmy Dolan
Yeah.
strikes again, man.
All right,
Knicks
Jay.
won't even make the. They won't make the Eastern Conference Final next season.
Oh, I agree with that. All right. Listen to this
And
closely.
by the way, in an Eastern Conference that will be worse than
Yes.
this year's Eastern Conference.
Absolutely. Take a listen to this. Jackie Bradley hanging out with the Savannah Bananas. It's going to play. I swear.
Now coming to bat, former All-Star and 2018 ALCS MVP and World Series champion, Jackie Bradley Jr.
2018 World Series champ. He smokes it. Deep out to left center. Leaping catch from Franklin. Robs Jackie Bradley Jr. of extra bases.
One more time for Jackie Bradley Jr.
All right. Okay, Jay Phillips.
All right.
Savannah Bananas, Jay or nay? Where are you at with the Savannah Bananas?
Nay. I've tried to get into it a little bit, and I just can't. I know what they want to be, and I applaud the fact that they have signed a big deal with Disney. Disney has said that this is fun family entertainment. It's akin to the Globetrotters.
Yeah.
Maybe it's my age. I don't know. I still think the Globetrotters are fun. I don't dislike the Savannah
If I gave you
Bananas.
tickets, would you go?
Probably once just to say I went, but I've seen the Globetrotters like 5 times, and it's always a fun time. So say whatever you want about me.
Nay.
But
You're
it's
a hater.
I
You're a hater.
I like the guy on stilts and all that. I look, I get it. If you like it, yeah. Look, they're selling tickets, man.
They're selling out, man.
It's cool.
I guess if you want to see baseball, it's a nay. If you want to go be entertained and goof around, it's a yay.
Yeah, I'd
that
rather
fair?
just go to a minor league thing and watch people in those big sumo suits bounce into each other and
The guy
throw
putting
up.
the bat on his head and walking around.
You know, I'd rather see that.
Hour 3 coming up.
Cato's Power Equipment ready to help you out to make sure your lawn looks good even in these hot summer months. Now, listen, if you got to do yard work, do yourself a favor, a real favor here. Don't do it in the afternoons. Ben Cato and Matt Stedman and the staff remind me to remind you that working in the yard in these hot afternoon hours is not good for anybody. It's not good for you. It's probably not good for your lawn. And it's not good for your equipment. So do it in the mornings. And when you need the guys, they're there early, all right? Otherwise, they kind of knock off in the afternoon, too, because it's hot. It's just plain hot. But that still means you got to do yard work from time to time. Whether it's the latest from Toro, Gravely, Steel, some great specials going on ahead of the fall. They'll hook you up. 4012 West Beltline Boulevard. Whether you do it for yourself, whether you do it for a living, see Cato's for great sales, service, and advice. And speaking of that service department, maybe you've got some equipment that you love. Well, go get it taken care of so that it keeps running the way you want it to. They'll do it for you at Cato's. You can check them out online for all kinds of great deals and so much more. That's my friends at Cato's and Cato'sPowerEquipment.com.
Now we got to get to the traffic here. I got a special traffic reporter, Jay. Guy named Brad Muller.
Yeah, sorry, I have no helicopters.
I need a helicopter. Just beat your chest like Les Nessman. Brad says accident on I-77 north just before exit 12. Traffic's down to one lane from our traffic reporter, our correspondent, Brad Muller. out in the field. So we appreciate Brad with the help there. Also, around the Midlands, Richland accident has just been cleared. I-70, this might be the one, I-77 northbound around exit 10, so maybe the accident has just been cleared that Brad was telling us about. Also in Columbia, long-term construction we always see, still there.
It is 5 o'clock news time on this Tuesday. Welcome back in. Also, the final hour of the post-game show, along with Terry Ford. I'm Jay Phillips. Appreciate you being with us. We'll start with Gamecock football news. Shane Beamer today announcing the 3 players that will accompany him to Atlanta next Monday to open up SEC Media Days. He will be taking Gamecock quarterback LaNorris Sellers, a redshirt sophomore from Florence. He'll also be taking safety DQ Smith from right here in Columbia. Of course, went to Spring Valley. And Nick Barrett from Goldsboro, North Carolina. 39 games over 4 seasons. Redshirt senior. Took that redshirt year last year. And that might be the one that surprised a few folks. Not that there's anything to be surprised by, per se. Shane likes to honor these kids for what they've done. Nick, this year, as an example, was the winner of the South Carolina Spirit Award for defense. And he has been on 5 academic honor rolls as a member of the Gamecock football team. So someone who Shane believes represents the school very, very well. DQ Smith, again, has a great story. Started 34 of 37 games in the last 3 seasons and was a walk-on out of Spring Valley, who, of course, was a quarterback for the Vikings and then turned himself into a heck of a DB here at Carolina. And, of course, LaNorris Sellers has done so much already in a very short amount of time and is now one of the bona fide Heisman candidates going into the season. Carolina, again, will be on the rotation Monday in Atlanta, along with LSU, Mississippi, and Vanderbilt. And once again, a reminder that we'll be there for you all day long, each and every day of Media Days. Looking forward to it from both the College Football Hall of Fame, and I won't say across the street, but I guess around the bend, if you will, at the Omni Hotel. But most of what we do will be broadcast from the College Football Hall of Fame. And again, y'all can come. You can hang out downstairs and see people as they come in and out, and look at the wall of helmets.
Yeah.
And then go across the street and ride the Ferris wheel. Or you could go to the walk-up Chick-fil-A inside the...
See, now I'm in.
Yeah. Well, it's right there inside the College Football Hall of Fame.
What are the chances we get a lot of free Chick-fil-A this year?
Free? Probably not great, but... access, man.
Yeah,
it's right
there.
Yeah.
I'm just there for the food. And Dr. Pepper. Remember the Dr. Pepper last year? What was that flavor last year we were...
Well, they had...
You liked it, I did.
The coconut. Yeah, the coconut.
Yeah, I wasn't down with that, man. You liked that?
I thought it was good. I was impressed.
You're good. You're doing all right.
They had the cherry and they had the strawberry. I didn't like the strawberry one. That wasn't good.
Yeah, I'm all about I love cherry Dr. Pepper.
And the cherry one's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they have they have either blueberry or blackberry or something this year. Maybe blackberry.
I'm not really. I'm not tingly over either one of those.
I hadn't tried it yet. I'll try it. I mean, Dr. Pepper's giving it to me.
Well, it's free.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, trust me.
I'll just go. This sucks. You want it?
Well, no.
Tastes like crap. Here, take a sip. I always love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Taste this. Is something wrong with this?
Girlfriend does it to me all the time. God, this tastes like garbage. Here, you try it.
You try it. Yeah.
It's like, wow, great.
Yeah. So once again, Nick Barrett, LaNorris Sellers, DQ Smith will be traveling with Shane Beamer next Monday over to Atlanta. And we'll grab those guys.
Oh, absolutely.
As they make their rotation.
I'm going to tell you, last year, I'll never forget, and you guys were still doing noon to 3 last year with Tyler. We had Debo.
Yeah.
Man, I'm going to tell you what, he was so intense.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was I've done a lot of player interviews like you in my life, but he sat down, and I'm telling you, I'm not making it up, he was ready to knock the hell out of somebody.
Right.
I mean, he had his big Debo chain.
Who was it? Debo and Boogie, and I forget who the third. Who was the?
It was Doty.
Oh, that's right, Luke.
It was Doty.
That's right.
But Debo was great, and he was. Again, Easy to talk to, nice guy. But
Yeah.
I mean, my man was ready.
Yeah.
You put some pads on him, he'd have taken somebody out.
And honestly, I have not seen yet the times. All I've seen is the rotations.
I just saw the rotation too. Tyler asked me about the times.
Yeah, I think the SEC will be telling us now that they've put the attendees out. I imagine probably tomorrow they will give us times.
Well, we start with Sankey, then Kelly's the first coach, and then Shane.
Okay.
I mean, isn't our boy Cloninger putting out 11:45-ish is what he's putting out?
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I think Tyler saw that. He was telling me he saw Cloninger put out 11:45.
I haven't seen that yet. But we'll get them all.
Oh, trust me.
Yeah,
we got nothing else to do.
Steve Fink always takes care of us.
Fink does a great. God love Fink.
Yeah,
I tell you, he does a great job.
Yeah. So there you go. All right, some other news football-wise here. Dak Prescott says he is full go for Cowboy training camp after last year's injury. Of course, last year missing the final 9 games with the hamstring tear. He had to have surgery. No signs of the injury, according to Todd Archer, who covers the Cowboys for ESPN in an off-season program. Dak says, I'm healthy as I'll be. I'll be full go for camp. I'm healthy. I think soon here I'll probably get the official sign-off from the doc, but I'm healthy. Terry, does that make Cowboy fans feel good? I'm as healthy as I'll be.
All right, 2 thoughts on the Cowboys. First of all, aren't they all eye-rolling? I mean, if you're a Cowboy fan, you're at that point. This
are they eye-rolling or are they swigging Pepto?
Both. This, whatever you call this era of Cowboy football, if you're a Cowboy fan, aren't you just over it? I mean, here's my prediction for the Cowboys this year. They'll win double-digit games. They'll make the playoffs, and they'll get beat in the first playoff game by North Texas High School.
Well, they're the third best team in their division at best.
Yeah.
At best.
But typically, when we give them no chance and we push them off like we all are this offseason, they make the playoffs.
Well,
and then they get beat.
I mean, look, the teams that are better than them played each other to get to the Super Bowl, and the Eagles went on and won it. You know what Washington is doing now. Again, Washington, God bless that franchise. You know, I'm a Denver fan. I got no dog in the hunt, but I feel so good for Washington fans because they have had just this hell that has been Dan Snyder's ownership lifted from their shoulders. And on top of that new ownership group, they get Jaden Daniels to come in and be a remarkable kid right away. Poised, successful. So, you know, Dallas.
Yeah.
You're more optimistic than I get your point. I know you're being a little tongue in cheek, but I think it's going to be tough for them to win double-digit games.
Here's the thing. The same team hasn't won the NFC East in forever.
Right.
That's like the thing in the NFL.
Right.
And look, I like a lot of the things that Washington's doing, and obviously Daniels looks like we feel like he'll be the deal. But remember this, C.J. Stroud looked like the deal after his rookie year, and then he regressed his second year in a sophomore type of slump.
Right.
I think Daniels, before it's all said and done, is going to be fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But he could be in neutral for year 2. We don't know. We don't think he will be.
If neutral, if in other words, if neutral is the same spot that he was in. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, Stroud took a step back. Let's say Daniels takes a step back.
Yeah.
It could happen.
It could.
I just feel like whenever we don't care about the Cowboys and we push them off, they all of a sudden go out and win 10 games or whatever and they make the playoffs. But we know this. Whether they do or they don't, we know they won't win a playoff game because they don't do that with Dak Prescott and this crew.
Yeah, that's my wife on line 1 calling.
Oh, you've suffered this more than anybody.
I hear about it. Now, I hear about it when I'm watching. If she's watching the Cowboys in one room, and I have if I have it on Red Zone, so I know that she'll just watch the Cowboy game, but I'll have it on Red Zone in another room. But I'll know within seconds what because I'll hear, oh darn it.
I'm sure she says darn it, doesn't she? I'm sure Sonny's dropping a lot of darn it during those games. Golly willikers.
It's funny. It's so funny because I'll get it like 5 seconds later. I'll get it on Red Zone, and I'm like, oh.
I see why.
Yeah.
I see why she broke the vase. Yeah. Here's my question to you. Your Broncos made the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
Her Cowboys had a miserable season.
Yeah.
And did you say, hey, I'm watching my Broncos in the playoffs later today? When are your Cowboys playing this weekend?
No,
that's right.
I didn't do that. I
did. You feel like it?
Well, here's what I did. I did that with Tottenham and Arsenal when Arsenal got to the Champions League semifinal. She didn't care about that. So but I could do that. Yeah, I can only do it with Tottenham and the Cowboys. See, with the Cowboys, I get it. There's no rivalry there.
Yeah.
So I try to be nice about that. Now, my daughter's boyfriend is a Washington fan, the one that went to Maryland.
Oh, okay.
So it could be if things progress.
This could get ugly.
That Mrs. Phillips and my potential future son-in-law, maybe. I don't want to push him.
He won't be your son-in-law if he's putting that Washington stuff in front of son.
It ain't my problem.
That's true. You don't have a dog in this fight at all. You can sit back, put your feet up, grab a...
Just hoping that Bo Nix doesn't throw a bunch of interceptions next year.
Just grab a craft beer and watch those two go at it, brother.
I'm good. All right. The Pacers, speaking of injuries, have indeed confirmed that Tyrese Halliburton will miss all of next season. Their team president, Kevin Pritchard, said, I have no doubt he'll be back better than ever. The surgery went well. It was a little higher, and he gets more blood to that as he recovers. He will not play next year, though. We would not jeopardize that now, so don't get any hopes up that he will play. You and I mentioned earlier when we were joking about the Knicks hiring Mike Brown to replace Tom Thibodeau. Again, classic on-brand Knicks move. But this does dampen things in the East. And Paolo Banchero just signed a big deal with Orlando. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're going to do better. Maybe Atlanta gets a little bit better. We talked to Mike Yuva earlier, mostly about the Gamecocks, but he had been covering a press conference with Boston's Brad Stevens and the honesty with which Brad was approaching the coming season with, their big star out and a new ownership group coming in. So I don't know I guess Cleveland is the best team in the East. The Bucks have made some nice moves.
Well, Cleveland was a 1 seed last year and went in the playoffs.
Yeah, I that didn't surprise me. I told Elijah, look, Oklahoma City was a 1 seed too, and they went on to do good things. It didn't surprise me with Cleveland.
I think with Cleveland, watching it, like on paper, it looks really good, right? And when they're going through the regular season, smacking the Wizards by 50 and what they did, through the 82, you're going, wow, they got talent. But this, man, it's a whole different ball game. You get in the postseason, it's a best of 7, it's coaching, it's matchups. And to be honest with you, Mitchell, he's had some wow moments, but there's been some moments they've really needed him to step up, and he hasn't quite stepped it up. And they've had some other guys really not get it going. I'll say this to you really quick about it. Don't you think this upcoming year is a big year for the Cleveland Cavaliers in their window?
Yeah, put up or shut up.
They've underachieved 2 straight years in the postseason.
Absolutely.
You got talent,
and
the East is down.
The best team, Boston, is not going to be good. The team that this year represented the conference in the finals is not going to be as good. Maybe Milwaukee just got better. I think they have, and I think they're keeping Giannis, and they've made some moves to get some pieces around him. So there's the main competition, I think. Again, maybe Orlando can get better. I don't know yet. We'll see. I don't have high hopes. But, yeah, I just don't think Cleveland is really that good. Again, like you said, it reminds me, not apples to apples, but it reminds me of the Rockets of 15 years ago, beating up on everybody in the regular season. Good for you. Yeah, like you said. Oh, good. You beat Washington by 50. Can you win a best of 7? No.
And that's some teams are built for the regular season, right, Jay, and some teams are built for the postseason.
Yeah.
And but Cleveland right now on paper seems like the favorite in the East.
Yeah. And they probably will.
And they'll win 60-some games.
Yeah, they'll win 60 games.
And we'll see what happens when they get the best of 7.
And they'll lose a best of 7. Yeah, this is an easy formula, it seems like. Finally, Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark today doubled down, he said, on the so-called 5+11 college football playoff format. Quote, 5-11 is fair. We want to earn it on the field. It might not be the best solution today for the Big 12, but long-term, knowing the progress we're making, the investments we're making, it's the right format for us. And I'm doubling down today on 5+11. He also went on to say that he expects his cohort, Jim Phillips, no relation, of the ACC, to say the same things next week at ACC Media Days in Charlotte. I have said earlier, I do not agree with Mr. Yormark on his take of the investments and that ultimately they will get a bunch of at-larges. If I were them, I would want to go for the automatic qualification scenario that gives them 2 guaranteed spots and also, of course, has 3 at-large opportunities built into it as well, and hope that those investments you're discussing and the long-term progress you want to make gets you one of those at-large spots, because I think that is a better scenario for the Big 12. I don't see a 5+11 getting the Big 12 3 regular participants in the college football playoff. I just personally don't. I could be wrong, and I like what they do top to bottom. But again, I said they're going to cannibalize one another with a bunch of 3 and 4 loss teams.
I asked you the question earlier. Okay, let's pick out 4 teams from the Big 12 we think could be perennial top 15, top 16 teams.
Can't do it.
Not right now, no.
I can't do it.
No, not consistently.
I'm not even sure I can pick you one right now. They could be perennial top 15.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. I mean,
it's tough.
Yeah. I mean, Arizona State and Colorado have good stories, but are they going to stay there?
Right. And Kansas State.
I might give you Utah as the one.
I love Whittingham, but we saw what happened with the quarterback problem.
Even then. That's our integrated media headlines of the day. We'll come back on the other side. We'll recap our start, bench, drop, Gamecock tight ends and get you a little bit more on our thoughts around Gamecock football as the postgame show rolls on. Love telling you about AAA Heating and Air and all the things they've done for my family. I had an issue recently. I had to get one of AAA's techs into the house to make sure that everything was good to go. Only took them about a half hour. Bang. Everything back and ready. Had a little clogged drain pan that was getting ready to cause an issue. Luckily, it didn't. But we caught it in time. Bang. That's what a great technician is going to do for you. If you haven't had your systems inspected in a while, if you're having some issues keeping your home cool, 803-677-1500 is the number to call to get one of their techs in the house real quick. They can get there fast. And if it's time for something brand new, take advantage of $1,500 system buyback rebate, 15-year parts and labor guarantee, and guaranteed financing. If you need something new, Roy and Dana Finley and the crew at AAA Heating and Air will stand behind it for well over a decade. Do what I've done and many of your friends and neighbors. Stay nice and comfortable with AAA. 803-677-1500. Tell them we sent you to AAA Heating and Air. 20 minutes after 5 o'clock here on a Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay and Terry with you. Today's start bench drop features Gamecock tight end greats Jared Cook, Hayden Hurst, and Willie Scott. A lot of you weighing in on this one. For college only, Brian Bennett says, our buddy Brian Bennett, start Willie Scott, bench Hayden Hurst, and drop Jared Cook. Thank you, Brian. Franklin says, start Jared Cook, bench Garnet Thor, and drop Willie. Tyler I guess he didn't want to rank them. Tyler weighs in and says, I love Jared Cook, but I still think about that pass he dropped against Auburn. Yeah. I mean, it happens.
I've heard about that.
It happens. I had a Saints fan tell me today that still remembers when Jared fumbled in the playoffs. I'm like, man, dude played a long time, had a lot of success, but you know
those
what?
things stick with you, man.
I did. I said too, like I can, and I won't name names, but I remember a Gamecock fumble against Georgia 20-some years ago, and I was like, man.
That's what you remember. You just do.
It's just,
it's like, how coaches say the losses hurt more than the wins make them feel good.
Yeah.
With fans, you remember the bad things, man. They eat at you.
Tim Frisbee, Pops, says, I don't remember Willie Scott in college, which is saying something. I know. We're the same age-ish. He says, however, I'm aware of his Carolina career. I played with Jared Cook. Obviously, I saw Hurst play. Saying all that, start Jared Cook, says Pops. Bench Willie Scott, drop Hayden Hurst. Mitch says, start Jared Cook, bench Hayden Hurst, drop Willie Scott. Steven says, start Willie Scott, bench Jared Cook, cut Hayden Hurst.
Dude, you got more Willie Scott love here than I was expecting, to be honest.
And Matt says, come on, Jay, you're killing me with these. That's what I'm trying to do here. Not literally kill you, but I do want them to be hard and make it, a good thought exercise. Start Hayden Hurst. And he adds some commentary. He says, I think with a more consistent quarterback and better coaching, he'd have been legendary.
Ton of physical gifts.
Yeah, I don't disagree with either of those. He was a terrific, obviously, first-round talent on a spotty offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Honestly, his couple years in Baltimore, because they traded him to Atlanta, right. I liked Hayden Hurst. I thought he was misused because he's the athleticism and the speed, and when you threw it to him, you know what he did, Jay?
He caught the ball.
He caught it.
Yeah.
And I just was like, and plus I was jealous of his hair. And it's just the idea that I thought he was just underutilized.
Yeah.
And I thought he would have a better pro career. He's had a solid NFL career. He made himself some money.
Yeah.
I thought he could be an upper-level type tight end.
I just wonder if the fits were ever there for him. I mean, going to Atlanta was, not great. I just,
Cincinnati, I mean, you thought it'd be better in Cincinnati.
When he was there,
but you throw the ball to the receivers a lot there. And then Carolina, career seemed to go to die in Carolina. So, and with the Chargers, and I mean, he never went to a team that was just sitting there chucking the rock everywhere to the tight end, to be fair.
So Matt says, start Hayden, bench Jared Cook, drop Willie Scott. And he says, recency bias. He was before my time. I don't really remember him or know much about him.
Can I give you the example of Willie Scott? Yeah. Okay, so I'm over here digging on the interweb to try to find highlights. Jared Cook was easy. Hayden Hurst was easy.
Yeah.
I walked into the room there. I was bouncy. I was so excited that I found this Willie Scott highlight, right?
All right.
So it was against Clemson. Scott had a long run. Ben Cornett in that game had a touchdown.
That's the 13-9. Yeah.
And so here's the highlight I found.
Okay.
You digging it so far? You like it? That's all I got. That's all I got. That's all I got, man. I got highlights, like really, like barely color highlights, and really bad music. I know. Yeah, I know what you want to say. I know, because I heard the music. I thought the same thing. I did. And if you are listening right now and of the same age that Jay Phillips and I are, you're laughing at the music too. I know. And that's all it is that music. And that was it, Jay Phillips. That's all I got.
I have to take your word that there's a highlight attached to that involves football.
actually does involve football. I heard the music. I just started. I was dying. I had to play it twice.
Wow.
It was hilarious.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
All right.
Anyway.
I'm taking your word for it.
There's our Willie Scott highlight. Sorry, Willie.
Oh, man.
It's the best we could do on the
Let's
YouTube.
see if I can grab a few more here. Oh, okay. I just got one that says, every year we play Auburn, I think about it right in his hands. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
The Jared Cook.
And Rusty says, another example of the football gods not favoring Gamecock football. I don't know. I mean, the fade, I'd say that was a favoring of Gamecock football. Or, again, God opening up that monsoon. But this was from yesterday's. The monsoon opened up, and Drew Lock, melted like the Wicked Witch, and Carolina was able to come back from a 10-point deficit.
I'm talking about the 4th and 19 run yesterday with Dylan Thompson.
Yeah, and then third and 19.
Third and 19,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Third and 19 run by Dylan Thompson.
I think there's been time. The Brian Scott catch in the end zone in Athens. I think that Brandon Bennett over the top.
I go back to the when you're a fan, you always look back at the misery.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
The push off.
You're
Or
always-
again, actually there were two plays in that Georgia game. Yeah, I mentioned that, but Andrew Pennick's fumble and then the David Pollock fumbleception against Corey in the end zone.
Yeah.
I remember.
But but again, fans remember those because you never remember when you get good fortune. You only remember when you get screwed.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
I get
human nature.
Oh,
human nature.
I've been on both sides. Look, I've been going to Williams-Brice routinely since 1974. I get it. I get it. Hit us up. We'll get a few more here for you in just a little bit. But again, if you missed it earlier, Carolina today, the entire Southeastern Conference today, and we'll give you some of the others in the drive around the SEC in a minute. But Carolina will be taking Nick Barrett, Lenoris Sellers, and DQ Smith to media days on Monday. Obviously, Coach Beamer will be going as well. We talked to Mike Yuba a little bit earlier and asked him, what he thought of the biggest story or the biggest question still around Carolina. He just thought building depth on defense. And then we asked him, Terry, what's the biggest strength? And he said a lot of people might roll their eyes, but he said, I love the depth on the offensive line. And I don't disagree with him. I don't know if that's the biggest strength of the team yet. And that's it. And by the way, I asked minus Lenoris.
Right.
Because I think we know that Lenoris going into this season is poised for great things. You got to go do it. But I said beyond Lenoris being the strength of the team, what do you like? And he said the offensive line. But I think he's right. I mean, I think you've got – listen, whoever the five end up being that start – I can look at this roster and I see 3 or 4 guys that have meaningful minutes that'll be backups.
There are guys again.
And that's what I like to see.
Like we talked about earlier, you have a handful of 4 stars. You got a 5-star. You got guys who it's time.
Yeah,
it's time.
Yeah.
So there is depth there. And
There's
plus, you have the
there's
transfer
depth.
portal guys, and it's time for the
Boaz
offensive line
Stanley
to step
coming in,
up.
and again, like Shane says, probably going to start in the middle. I mean. I like where this unit is. I like Casey and Henry. I like Marky Anderson.
I think Josiah Thompson's going to make a huge jump this year.
Josiah, I think, is going to get a lot of love next week on some all-conference teams. There's a lot.
He took his whooping last year to get better.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened when you're a freshman.
Yeah.
Hey, look at Caden Proctor right now.
Yeah.
He took his whooping his freshman year, and look where he's at right now.
We'll tell you who else is going to media days next week.
This should be our music to go to break all the time. Don't you think?
I have so many things I want to say.
That's why we got to jump on it.
There's no way this is highlight music, man. There's just no way.
Telling you.
There's just no way. All right, drive around the SEC is next, and get this image out of your head.
Seeing what's happening on the roads around the Midlands and Columbia, an accident. Calks Ferry Road at James Dunbar Road. In Richland, Gervais near Hugie, accident. And, of course, we have our long-term construction issues as well. I-20 and 26, Broad River Road, exit 65, and I-26 between Bush River Road and exit 108A. Tonight, 74 degrees, some clouds, but not a chance of rain in the forecast. Doesn't look that way. And tomorrow, in the 90s, was not a big chance of rain either.
It is Drive Around the SEC time on this Tuesday. Welcome back in. Jay Phillips, Terry Ford with you. Again, today the conference has announced all of the attendees player-wise for next week's Media Days event in Atlanta. I'll run them down for you, see the ones that you think you might be most interested in hearing from, and we'll hear from a lot of these guys throughout the course of the week. They've listed these in alphabetical order. Although I'll try to give you, I have the day order as well, but I'll just do these alphabetically. Let me go back to my notes here. First, all right, here, alphabetical order. Alabama. There will be a test later, Terry, so there's 16 schools, so be ready.
All right, I'm taking notes.
Yeah, thank you. That's 48 players. I can do the math. Tim Keenan, defensive lineman. Deontay Lawson, linebacker. And Caden Proctor, who you mentioned just a minute ago. They're a big offensive lineman who will not be playing into his senior year. Arkansas will be sending defensive lineman Cam Ball, quarterback Taylon Green, who's going to get a lot of love, and Xavier Sori, junior linebacker from Arkansas. Auburn is sending new quarterback Jackson Arnold, transfer from Oklahoma. Keldrick Falk, defensive lineman, and Connor Liu, offensive lineman. Florida will have defensive lineman Caleb Banks, offensive lineman Jake Slaughter, and quarterback DJ Lagway. Again, expect him to get a lot of attention. Georgia sending linebacker C.J. Allen. He's good. Dalen Everett, defensive back. He's good. And Gunnar Stockton is going. And I saw somebody tweet this out earlier today. Don't know if you agree, Mr. Ford, or those of you in the audience, but I'll pose it to you like this. Mm-hmm. The tweet I saw said, Kirby Smart sending Gunnar Stockton says a lot about Kirby's belief in what Gunnar will be next season.
I can go with that. I mean, why are you going to send him if you have any doubts about him? I mean, if you're really, and plus that makes him feel, wow, my coach has confidence in me, right?
I listen.
I think that
I like
makes
that
sense.
kid. Listen. I mean, Georgia, you know, I'm going to ready to make a duh statement. Georgia recruits well.
Really? You sure?
So
you have evidence to back that up?
So, you know, I like Beck. I don't know, though, Terry, other than their age and level of experience, how much talent separation there is between the two.
Well, they kind of took the same. And Beck waited forever, right, to get his turn, you know, and then Stockton sat out for a couple years waiting for his turn. And a lot of people tried to, okay, well, you saw him in the SEC championship game. You saw him in the college football playoff game against Notre Dame. Look, that's a guy wasn't expecting to play, got thrown into the fire at the worst possible time against Texas and against Notre Dame. That Notre Dame defense was legit.
He played well against Texas.
And he hung himself in there. I mean, he did some good things, did some bad things. I think trying to judge Gunnar Stockton on what you saw in those two contests, I don't think that's a judgment. I think you give him a whole off season. He's the man. Yeah. Spring practice, summer practice. Yeah. We'll see what he is. And look, Georgia's brought in talent on the offensive side of the ball, skill position guys.
Need some receivers.
They
Need
brought
to run.
in some,
and listen,
we'll see.
Last year, you know what Georgia didn't do last year? There's the irony. Last year, Georgia couldn't run.
They couldn't run. That vaunted offensive line.
They didn't run.
They had trouble consistently open holes in the run game for those backs. Yeah. They really did. They had a tough time last year.
I think it's the first time since like 1904 that Georgia couldn't run the ball.
It was crazy. And then Beck tried to do too much, and he showed you the holes in his game. The receivers didn't step up. The tight ends who were supposed to replace Brock Bowers didn't. It was just Georgia's offense was just off a cylinder all last year.
Yeah, Oscar Delp, I think a lot of us thought Oscar Delp was going to become 80% of Bowers, and I think it's more like 60%.
Yeah, probably
so he's
somewhere
still
around
really good.
He's just not Bowers.
But Bowers is just, I think you
superhuman.
realized, like, oh, wow, he's fantastic. And now you see what he's doing in the NFL. Unfortunately, he's doing it for a team that I don't like. But anyway, I like Stockton. And you mentioned, that Notre Dame game, both those defenses that day were just on point.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, Stockton's got a whole off season now, and Bobo can, I'm hoping, kind of take that offense and mold it around Gunnar Stockton's skill set. And again, they've tried to improve the skill positions, and let's see what Gunnar Stockton does this year.
The number one, again, I like Stockton.
But running the ball.
Yeah,
You're right.
run the ball.
Running the ball, man.
Yeah, it's Georgia's
That's a Georgia staple.
Yeah, Georgia has to run the ball better.
Yep.
Kentucky will be sending linebacker Alex Afari, defensive back Jordan Lovett, and tight end Josh Caddis. So they don't want to send Zach Calzada to represent.
Wow, shocking.
LSU sending Chris Hilton, big-time wide receiver. Garrett Nussmeier, who will probably throw the ball to Hilton 10 times a game.
A lot, yes.
And linebacker Whit Weeks. Mississippi sending linebacker T.J. Daughtery, wide receiver Caden Lee, and new quarterback Austin Simmons. So, again, a lot of belief.
That's interesting.
Yeah, a lot of belief
You
there.
send Austin Simmons if you're Lane Kiffin.
Yeah. Well, Lane, I think Lane thinks he has to send his quarterback.
Yeah, I think, and plus with Lane,
Remember
look,
Jackson Dart last year? He was dressed for success.
Jackson Dart loved himself some Jackson Dart, didn't he? Our boy.
He was.
Look, Lane can develop quarterbacks to play at a high level in college.
Yeah.
That's what Lane does. I think Austin Simmons with all those physical gifts should be good.
That fan base is ready to send them to the playoff. The funny thing is their expectation level is nearly what LSU's is, and that's probably not fair to Mississippi. But that's the reality they live in right now.
Here's the thing, though. Honestly, nationally, they're not getting the love they got last year. Remember that team was like the best team money could buy last year. Remember, this year they're not getting that type of national exposure, and I think Lane was a little uncomfortable last year. I think Lane likes it when he's sneaking up on you. I don't think Lane really liked the idea that he was the hunted. I think they'll be much more comfortable in his skin, not having the national media say he should get to the college football playoffs. You're right. In Oxford, they're ready. But nationally, Ole Miss isn't looked at like they were last year. I think Lane likes that myself. I really do.
State will be sending quarterback Blake Shapen. Shapen?
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm here for it.
Was he there? Was he there?
Yeah, he got hurt, remember? And then
that's right. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I did. Okay.
And then the freshman stepped in, and now he transferred to LSU.
Yeah. Safety Isaac Smith and wide receiver Brennan Thompson. Mizzou sending safety Dalen Carnell, center Connor Tollison, and defensive end Zion Young. Oklahoma sending their new quarterback John Mateer, transfer from Washington State.
That was in his NIL contract.
Yeah, probably. Defensive back Robert Spears Jennings and defensive lineman Mason Thomas. Tennessee is sending linebacker Arian Carter, tight end Miles Kittelman, and defensive tackle Bryson Kitzelman, not Kittlesman, Kitzelman, Miles Kitzelman, and defensive tackle Bryson Eason. That's
I like that.
Thank you.
There you go. Good job.
Getting close now. Texas sending Anthony Hill, linebacker. Arch Manning is going.
Makes sense. Well, it'd be a story if you weren't sending Arch Manning, right?
Yeah. Why aren't you taking him, Sark? Yeah.
What's the deal, man?
You pretty much have to. And defensive back Michael Taft, A&M will send Will Lee, who's had a great career, defensive back. Amaj Reed Adams, offensive lineman, and linebacker Tarian York, and finally Vanderbilt. And this one surprised me a little bit. They're sending Randon Fontenette, their safety / outside linebacker, Martell Height, defensive back, and Diego Pavia will be going as well. I thought maybe that they would send the tight end. His name just escaped me.
I'm blanking too, but I know you're talking about.
Gee whiz.
Really good player.
Phillips. Yeah, no, he was Phil Steele's number one. And I just, right when I was getting ready to say his name, it just went out of my head. I know you're screaming at your radio. Stop it. I'll get it in a second.
Yeah, right.
I'll get it in just a second, I promise. But anyway, That one surprised me a little bit. Man, I'm gonna scream here in a second.
No, I'm gonna get it now because it's driving me crazy too.
I'll find it.
I blame you for this.
Thank you. All right. Well, we'll get it for you on the other side. And if you have a final few minutes, if you want to participate in today's start, bench, drop, Gamecock tight end greats, you've got
Eli Stowers, dude.
Stowers. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you. I hate when I do that. Of course, I forget my kids' names half the time. Jared Cook, Hayden Hurst, Willie Scott. Those are your Gamecock tight ends to start, bench, drop, and we have a little Jay versus the internet. Elijah told me earlier that I made a game up.
You won.
I made a game up.
You're getting close, man.
Again, I was 8 games back. Now just 2.
You were 2 out of 3 yesterday.
Okay.
You did
Whatever
all
it
right.
takes, man. Again, inching closer. But again, from 8 games to 2 games, I'll take it. That's progress. You're listening to the postgame show. Welcome back in. Post-game shows, final few minutes. We'll do it all again tomorrow. Jay and Terry here with you. Our start bench drop today, Gamecock tight end greats, Jared Cook, Hayden Hurst, Willie Scott. Time for us to give you ours. This one, it was difficult for a couple. I was a little kid when Willie Scott was doing his thing. Of course, he was a fellow first-round pick with the great George Rogers back in the 1981 draft. And Willie, again, for those teams was again, an early indicator of what a great pass-catching tight end could be. Because let's face it, those offenses, look, George had 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Those offenses were asked to make sure that there were plenty of running lanes for George Rogers. And
your job was to block.
And George would do the rest. But Willie, as you said, Willie caught 20-some balls that year. I mean, that's for a tight end in 1980 with a Heisman-winning running back.
You weren't throwing it a ton.
No, man. I mean, so I'm gonna start Jared Cook. Jared Cook, I thought, in a lot of ways in college football, redefined what the pass. I don't want to say he was the pioneer, but when you look at where tight ends are today, I think he was at the forefront of what those guys, because remember, he was playing in college nearly 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say he's old, but it's a long time ago. But and the way he ran, Terry, he was built more like a receiver.
And
I mean, he played tight end.
He had these big strides too, man, and he just ate up ground.
Yeah. So I'm going to start Jared Cook. I'm going to bench Willie Scott.
Okay.
And I'm going to bench Willie Scott because of Willie Scott's abilities to do what he did. And I just remember those days. And I'm going to drop Hayden. It isn't because I think Hayden's not good. And I think one listener made a good point on Twitter earlier. If Hayden had a better – I mean, listen, the NFL saw through some of the things that couldn't be done at Carolina and still made him a first-round pick.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I'll start Jared, I'll bench Willie, and I will drop Hayden Hurst.
It's interesting because you got 2 first-round picks. One, you're like, oh, that guy's a first-round pick because Jared Cook was a third-round pick. I guess
Who became a 12-year veteran.
Yeah. I guess if you look at totality, because what they did at South Carolina, it felt like – and those Cook teams were were better teams, correct, of the 3?
Yeah.
Right?
And when you look, I think, at Carolina, I think Hayden might have more stats around him.
I was just saying, I think Hayden's stats are better.
But
Cook,
basically because he was the only weapon they had.
Yeah. It's real tough. I mean, because I don't want to disrespect Scott because I never saw him play at South Carolina.
That's fair.
So, but when you're a first-round pick and you were taken 14th overall, you got something going on.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna start probably because of the totality of career Jared Cook.
Okay.
I'm gonna bench Willie Scott because again, you must have had something going on at that time. And then I'll drop Hayden Hurst, even though I'm a huge Hayden Hurst
Yeah,
fan.
I love Hayden. Again, these are hard for a reason.
Yeah, this in the beginning. I didn't think when you first sent it to me it was going to be that hard. But the more I studied up on Willie Scott,
and
then when I played that music for his highlights, I mean, jeez.
Yeah.
But that's where I'll go. Cook,
there you go.
Scott, and then Hayden, unfortunately.
There you go. No, that's it. Again, you got to drop somebody. That's what makes these hard.
All right. Well, you ready?
Yes. This is new music.
Well, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? No pressure on you, sir.
All right. Are you going to do a Regis Philbin voice? Or
I can't do that. I can't do the Regis Philbin voice. I can only do cheesy game show. I can do the cheesy game show guy voice.
That's not as fun.
No, it's not. All right, here we go.
All right.
Didier Fuentes takes the ball for Atlanta tonight. Fuentes in 3 starts, 3 2/3, 3 1/3, and 5 innings pitched. Over/under for innings pitched tonight for Didier Fuentes is 4. Over/under 4 innings pitched. Jay Phillips, over/under.
He did all right the last game out.
Yeah, I think 5 innings, I believe.
Threw 90-something pitches. I'll go over.
Go over?
Yeah.
Dude's got some arm talent, no doubt.
Yeah.
Number 2, Matt Olson.
Do I need to write this down? Or
No, I got you.
You're writing it down? Okay.
Matt Olson of the Braves, Jacob Wilson of the A's. Who gets more total bases tonight?
Oh.
How good is Jacob Wilson been?
Yeah. I think isn't his OPS like 900?
Ridiculous, yes.
Wilson.
Wilson?
Yeah. I don't really want to, but yeah.
Okay. Now, the Cubs take on the Twins. The Dodgers play the Brewers.
Okay.
Who's going to score more runs, Jay Phillips, the Cubs or the Dodgers?
Gosh, can I look at least where these games are?
Sure. Go ahead.
Schedule real quick here. All right, Cubs. Cubs are at Minnesota.
The Dodgers are in Milwaukee,
Dodgers are in Milwaukee.
which is a pitcher's ballpark.
All right, looking
I
at
believe.
Cubs will score more.
All right. Plus, Cubs offense has been sickening,
Cubs.
and Dodgers are been struggling.
Yeah.
So you're going Cubs. All right. So you're going Cubs score more runs than the Dodgers.
Yep.
You're taking Jacob Wilson to get more total bases than Matt Olson because you're just a hater. And then Dedier Fuentes will go over 4 innings pitched.
Oh, I think he can go. I hope he can go 5.
Tell you, man, they really like him.
Eventually,
Braves
it's
really
going to
like
come
him.
for that. Oh no, they're big on him, and at this point, they don't have a choice.
I
just
know.
think you're going to go ahead and say, son, welcome to the bigs. You're only 20.
See you in 5 days. Let's
You
do
know.
it again. I mean, again, they have some guys in the minors like Cam Caminetti and Hurston Waldrop that they like too, but Fuentes has shot up the charts.
Well, he's got a cannon.
And a lot of movement, a lot of spin.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got to
can
work
just
on the
control
control.
where it's going.
Got to work on the control.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the case for anybody that throws 96, 98.
You threw that in high school, right? Didn't you?
Yes.
96, 98?
If you took 2 pitches. Maybe I wasn't quite that slow. But yeah, I don't think I was throwing 90s, man. That would have been nice, though. That would have been nice.
Do you ever notice the highest you went on the gun?
I swear, if I ever threw a ball faster than 82, I'd have been surprised. 82, 83, probably something like that. I got on a radar gun once, and I was like, yeah, that's probably about right.
Talk to you tomorrow.
See
man.
you tomorrow.